is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, welcome everybody to the third episode of the PWCC Weekly Hockey Auction coverage live. Today is Sunday, February the 5th, 2023. My name is Jeremy Lee. I want to thank all subscribers, viewers, podcast listeners, and if you are not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, please take a moment and do so. With that, let's get on with it and bring on our co-host, Josh Madigan from the Hockey Cards Gong Show. Welcome back, buddy. How have you been?
I'm doing awesome. How are you? Excited to be back? Boy, it's amazing how fast a week flies, huh? It's like we were just here and now we're back, but some cool cards to talk about tonight.
It really is amazing how fast the time goes. And this week, for the hockey auctions on the PWCC Weekly, there are 147 lots. Most of them are singles. There's a few wax items as well. But we've got 147 items that we can be covering and we can be looking at. But even more exciting than that, I believe, is this new all-access extended bidding, which is happening for the very first time tonight on any PWCC auction. This is really exciting, Josh, because now, if you're, for example, watching this show and you see a card that you'd maybe like to make a play at, but you didn't bid before 7 o'clock Pacific, that doesn't matter anymore. You now can bid anytime in extended bidding, as long as you're a registered bidder on PWCC's website, which I think most of us likely are by now. So I think this is really exciting. I love the innovation. I love that they are trying something new. It seems like what PWCC has said. Jesse Craig put out a promotional video or a message video telling the hobby what's going on. And Josh, what they're saying is that this is for the month of February only. And I think that's a really smart approach for them, because if it doesn't work or there's some unforeseen issues, they can always just go back to the old way, but they can also extend it into March and onward if it's something that is going to work and make both their sellers and buyers happy. I've got all sorts of thoughts on it, Josh, but let's go to you. What have you thought about this? What do you think this means?
I think it's a good thing, like you said. It's awesome to test, and you got to continue to push boundaries. You want to see what works, what doesn't work. It's great for sellers. It's great for people that are bored on a Sunday night and want to see what's going on in the PWCC and maybe bid on some cards. The only person that, or vantage point where it might not be a great deal, is for someone like me who's winning on a current lot right now, and it adds a little more sweat as I, trying to get that card that I'm chasing here. But that's okay. That's okay. Just like you said, Jeremy, it's awesome that PWCC is trying new things.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. I love, and they're listening to their customers, and you're right. I'm with you. I think that it's going to be a great benefit for the sellers, which means it may be a little bit more challenging for a buyer to end up winning a card that they want. But listen, I mean, this is, it's almost like a perfect mix of the old, I don't want to say old because it might come back, but what the traditional PWCC platform method and the eBay method. Right now, you can bid, anyone can bid until the end, but that perfect blend is that you can't snipe. Now, I when I bid on eBay, I snipe. So I like how auction platforms they make it so that everybody can bid as much as they want until the end of the auction. With the PWCC extended bidding now, it can keep on going as long as people are excited. So I think that this auction is going to take longer to end, because more people are eligible to bid. So there's going to be more resetting of the extended bidding window. And I like that, if I decide I want to bid on a card, Josh, an hour into extended bidding, I can do that. If one of the viewers of our show sees a card that they didn't bid on before 7 o'clock Pacific, but they want to take a stab at it, you're qualified. I mean, To me, it makes great sense. And yeah, like you said, it might cost a few more dollars to win some cards. But at the end of the day, I think, Josh, that a card is going to be valued on any given day what it's valued at. And we're just going to get there, maybe get there in a little bit of a different roadmap towards the final bid as far as when the bids are coming in. But that said, I think it might, I think the value that the cards will be on any given day with additional bidders eligible, it could pump the prices up a little bit. And great for sellers and buyers. You just got to decide what you want to spend.
No, I totally agree with you. For me, the key thing is having that extended bidding window. I'm completely anti-snipe, and only because I'm horrible at it, and it never works out for me. So this is definitely the way that I prefer. And to your point, Jeremy, if you think about, well, what's PWCC's place in the marketplace? It's to provide a platform that makes cards accessible to as many people possible, right? And there's some beautiful cards in this auction, and they should be everyone should have an opportunity to get them and to go after them if that's really what you want for your collection. And so I'm all for this. I'm predicting that it's going to work out really well, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's just it. We will see. I do not know what to expect, but I'm excited. I'm going to share my screen in a few minutes. And you guys, I'm logged in to PWCC, so you'll see where I've placed a couple of bids early on. And, cards that I might be interested in. There's one that I might make a play for. It's always tough. I mean, if people out there know what I'm bidding on, they may either try and get it instead of me or bid me up. I don't know. So I might have to do stuff on my phone while we're running this show. But let's collectors dream. Hold on. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. We're going to keep going. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what's going on, but let's say hello to, again, Jeff McMahon, Jake Dahl, welcome to the show. Michael Harrell, welcome. Been watching, make this show all about the cards on here. Keep up. Thank you so much. And baseball card curmudgeon Baz, what's going on? JG, yes, anyone can bid at any time. That is exactly right. Anyone can bid at any time. JG says, been getting steals on PWCC, so it makes sense. That's good. I mean, I think that's a big part of the reason. Anthony George, think I know the answer, but does Denny Savard get any hobby love? That guy may have been the most electrifying player ever seen to play the game. Just fun to watch. Anthony, it's funny you bring up Denny Savard, one of my favorites from the 80s. Him and Michel Goulet from the Quebec Nordiques played a lot with Peter Stastny. I know one of Josh's favorites. I love Denny Savard. Does he get hobby love? No, not really. Not really, unfortunately, but he should. Thank you, Jeff. JG, appreciate that. It's a Card Knock Life. Welcome to the show. And Jake says, I just registered for the first time. Well, maybe you'll make some bids and see what comes your way. Josh, are you bidding on anything this month?
One card. I'm winning.
You're winning one card. And are you going to share with us what that is? And of course, no pressure to do so.
I want the card.
Okay. So the fact that I'm logged in on my computer and I'm going to share that might cause me some grief down the road here. So a reminder to everybody again, there's no need now, although, get your bids in when you want, but there's no need to get your bid in before 7:00 Pacific, as there would have been last week and every PWCC auction leading up to today. But there are still the same extended bidding windows. You can see them on the ticker right now. The first hour are 5-minute extensions, meaning if any card gets a bid in a 5-minute period, it will go for another 5 minutes. At 8:00 Pacific, it shrinks down to a 2-minute window, and at 8:30, a 1-minute extension window. So, that's going to keep you on your toes as bidders, even though it's all access. I think we'll see this auction last, I'm going to guess, like 20% longer in extended bidding than in the past. Just a random guess, but we will see for sure. Jake says, yeah, for sure. May have to take a stab at something. And Anthony George, thank you very much. We'll have to see what we want to go bid on. So with that, guys, let's take a look at the auction. And here you go. So I've got it sorted already in advance to just the weekly Sunday number 55. You can see that right here, because we could have picked out, I could have clicked off both this week and next Sunday's items because they did go live on Thursday. This is a 10-day auction. We've got hockey. We've got the wax as well for 147 total results. And we have it sorted from oldest card to newest card. And Josh, listen, you jump in wherever you want. I was listening to your podcast the other day, and you were talking about how last week we were talking about the Howie Morenz, and you said, I'm not going to let Jeremy go by without me jumping in and talking about the Howie Morenz. Please, anything you want to talk about, feel free just to interrupt me, Josh.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
All right, good. So we're jumping in here, 147 lots tonight that are going to end. And right off the bat, a very nice Newsy Lalonde C55. This is the second year of hockey cards ever. This is a tobacco card. It's a near mint 7. It does look to be off-centered right to left. You know, I'm a collector of this set, and I can tell you that centering is very challenging. So despite the centering, without looking really close, I'm sure this card is near mint in every other way, and just a real tough card. Already evidenced by $3,300. This is not his rookie card, Josh. He has a card in the C56 series, the 1910s from the year before. That is another amazing card. So for a second year, Newsy Lalonde, I love this card. I just have to say, I do have a copy of it myself in my C55 series. We've seen some champs cards now. This is the third week in a row. However, this week, just the one, the Werner Schnarr. Not familiar with the player, to be honest. I don't think I've ever heard of him, but it's a near mint 8. It's a 1275 already. Pop 101, one graded higher. If you are a set collector of this 24 Champ cigarette set, this is a must-have. But Josh, this next card, one of my favorites, if not my favorite in the auction, 1951 Parkhurst, Maurice Richard. I mean, we talked a bit about this when we did the master class on your podcast, when you had me on to talk about the Parkhurst sets. As far as 51 Parkhurst goes, several important Hall of Fame rookies. In my opinion, this is the second most important in the series behind only Gordie Howe. And I would even argue this might be right up there with Gordie Howe. I'm a big Maurice Richard fan. A lot of people, Josh, I notice who aren't hockey fanatics like we are, pronounce it, Maurice Richard, or they don't know how to say it. It is just for anyone who's watching. If you're not a hockey person, it is Maurice Richard, and his brother is Henri Richard. Josh, what do you think about this particular PSA 7.5 Rocket Richard rookie card?
It's one of the ones that we highlighted on our show this week. It's beautiful, amazing, a tiny bit maybe off center, but it's one of the better copies that you'd probably come across. And so if you're in the Maurice Richard market, this is one that you probably really want to look at. So I have a question for you, Jeremy, and this is a question I asked Troy this week. When you look at a guy like Richard, and he was an 8-time Stanley Cup champion, right? When do we discount that at all, given there were 6 teams? So if we're saying, a guy like Crosby has 3 cups and Richard has 8, what's your stance on that as far as these vintage guys and looking at their cup totals, given that they had to beat out 5 teams as opposed to 31?
That's a good point. I've never thought too hard about that, Josh. It's similar to the way, in the NFL now, what records, how do you compare records this past season over ones before when they went from 16 to 17 games? It's kind of like I know it's a loose comparison, but to me, it was easier to win a selection. Now there's 30. It's 5 times harder now to win a cup. So if Crosby has 3 and 5 times harder, are those the equivalent of 15 compared to what was going on in the original 6 era? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, kind of. And I think I agree with you, is that where we landed is it's best to compare players within the same era, that it's always going to be really tricky when you start comparing players outside of their era. And so really how many cups he won should be most relevant to the people that he played with within his playing window.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. This card, let's just look at this card for a moment. 51 Parkers, they're not all the same. They're not all the same shape and dimension. Some are smaller than others. This one looks to be full size. I say that because of the width of the border on each side. You know, Josh mentioned it looks to be slightly off-centered to the left, but I mean, even when we're zoomed in, like, you want to look for the snowing effect right over here, black background, and this one seems to be almost void of it a little bit right here, but nothing too offensive. And you also want to make sure that the print on the bottom is nice and clear, which it really is here. So this is just a great copy, and 15,500. It's got the exceptional eye appeal designation by PWCC, top 15%. I think that makes a ton of sense for me. I was really interested in trying to acquire this card, Josh. I love this card. Like, if you are out there right now and this is a card, and I know a couple people that are going for this one, so I'm sorry, guys, but I just have to say this is an amazing card. I mean, it's got a little bit of something back here. It doesn't bother me. It's on the back of the card. Obviously, the back of these cards are blank. I don't know if that's in the stock itself. I believe this is in the stock, like some fiber. You can see fibers in this cardboard. It's actually quite nice. I'm not sure what that is, but I don't even care. I just think this is one of the this is nicer than 8s that I've seen, Josh. It comes down to the width of the card overall. I love it.
Gotcha. And I think the value on this one is a little tricky because you get into these PSA half grades and there just aren't that many in the pop count. I believe there's only been 2 public sales of a PSA 7.5, and this is a pop count of 4. And so the last sale was in 2015 for just under 6,000 US, right? So we know that it's obviously almost 3 times above that right now. And then if you compare that to the highest sale ever for 51 Parkhurst Rocket Richard, that was a PSA 8.5 that sold for 75,000 US in July of 2021. So it's, you know, there's a big window, I think, where this card can end up.
Yeah. You know what? And listen, I would love to put this one beside that 8.5 that sold for 75,000. Swear to God, my money is on this one being a nicer copy from an eye appeal perspective. And I'd have to do that to make sure. But I threw in a bid of 4,500 before they announced that they were going to all access extended bidding. And I think a few people probably did that. And now, listen, I have a copy of this card in a PSA 4 holder. I love it dearly. I'm not going to be making any more bids on this card because that's a lot of money. And I have a copy I'm happy with. But I mean, still, what an amazing card. All right, let's go back to here. And this is the other card I love in this auction, Josh. The second year Tim Horton. This one I still might make a bid on. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens once extended bidding starts. But this is the same image from his rookie card, the 51, which we talked about last week quite in depth. I think this is one of the most beautiful cards. 53 Parkhurst was what they went from the small size here to a mid size. We don't see any here in 52 to an oversized. Oh, I mean, these are just a little bit taller than today's standard cards. But look at this thing. It is a work of art. And if you take the Tim Horton, the Maurice Richard, and the Gordie Howe, all from the 53 Parker set, they are 3 of the most beautiful cards in all of historical hockey, as far as I'm concerned. And I might make a play for this one tonight. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I might still go for this card. And then eventually I'd have to go for the Richard and the Gordie Howe because I don't have them. But I'm getting more and more interested. And this is other collectors influencing me. I'm becoming more and more interested in like non-rookie year cards of Hall of Famers that are just beautiful. And I'll admit it. I've become influenced by Maddie C's collection on Instagram in particular. Also by Rob Gerard, sports card therapist, who, by the way, is running a show concurrent with us right now, covering the vintage segment of the PWCC auction. So, yeah, I don't want to talk about that one anymore, Josh. We'll come back to it unless you have anything to say.
I have a couple things. Number one is I agree. It's a special card, and it's a pretty rare one too. So that PSA 8 is a pop 27, Jeremy, and there's only 5 graded higher. So this is one of the 32, you know, from a PSA perspective at least, highest graded copies out there. It last sold in April of 2021. So again, these don't come up for sale very often for $1,262 US. The weird thing though is the all-time high sale on this card was $7,800 US back in 2016. So someone went big 7 years ago in order to get one of these copies.
And that is probably a function of population at the time, right? You said this is a pop 27 with 5 higher. Back then, I'm totally guessing this might have been a pop 3 with 1 higher, like as extreme as that. I have no idea. I could be way off there. Maybe the population hasn't grown much in the last 6 or 7 years, but I venture to guess that it has. And I love the card. Okay, let's keep going before I turn too many more people onto that one. Josh, here's some more 53 Parkhurst, and you can just see these are works of art. I mean, I can't imagine kids back in the day opening up these cards and just like not treating them like prized possessions, but they didn't. They were just trading cards. They were put in spokes and thrown against walls and traded on dirty grounds at recess. To me now, these are legit works of art. I just love them. We come into, and again, interrupt me if you want, Josh.
Well, I was just going to make the point. It's not just the kids, right? But as you said on our show, they were essentially collated in cement mixers, weren't they?
Well, just the 51s. Just the 51s were 51s. According to legend. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's meant for longer? We got some 58 Parkhurst as well. There's a Rocket Richard. Again, Maurice Richard, also known as the Rocket, for anyone who's not sure. Rocket Richard, he's an absolute legend. Here's his 58 card in an EX5 PSA holder. Carl Brewer, he's a Toronto Maple Leaf fan favorite from back in the day. Bill Hickey, not really familiar with him. Dick Duff, another player I'm not too familiar with. But you can see these cards are all right around that. Well, that's the 7, that's an 8, that's an 8, and they're not too expensive. These are really great for set collectors. Same with these 3 here. Bert Olmsted, Noel Price, Gary Edmondson. These are common cards for the most part. The Olmsted might be a little bit better than a common. These would both be commons. And we have 3, 8. They're all graded 8, 8.5. And you can see quite affordable. And then a 61 Tops card. 61 Tops are really cool cards. There's just the colors used, the backgrounds. This is an Andre Provenot. $6 for an SGC 1. Keeping on going. 62 Parkhurst. Bernie Jeffrion, also known as Boom Boom Jeffrion. His rookie card is in the 51 Parkhurst set. Hall of Famer, great player, and he's had grandchildren in the NHL. I think he's got lots of relatives. If you Google Bernie Jeffrion and see who's related to him in hockey, it's quite the list. And then this is a wonderful second-year card of Rod Gilbert, the New York Rangers Hall of Famer. This copy's obviously off-centered. It's a PSA 6, $24. I mean, second year for a Hall of Famer. And like I said before, Josh, I'm becoming more and more interested in these non-rookie year cards. But let's keep on going. Bobby Orr here, third year Bobby Orr, 68 O-Pee-Chee. You'll notice not only is it off-centered, but it's also heavily tilted clockwise. And that is very common on the 68 O-Pee-Chee, Bobby Orr, and the Bernie Parent, the important cards that year. So, maybe something to get your head around, but still tough to find without that tilt happening.
It almost looks like it's not slabbed correctly. Like I would have, without knowing that printing fact, I would have assumed that it was a mistake when it was put in the slab.
Yeah, I could see that. And then you look at the border, though, right? You look at the border right here, how thick it is there, and it comes down to there. Very narrow here, much thicker up here, gets narrower as you move to the left. Some people, I think, I believe, erroneously refer to that as diamond cut. I refer to that. Diamond cut to me is when you don't have a perfect rectangular card with 4 90-degree angles. To me, this is called tilt. It's a centering issue. And it is what it is. This card has been authenticated by Beckett Vintage Grading Services, and it says it's altered. So probably, I'm just guessing, has some trimmed edges. But $88, and you got yourself a nice copy of an altered third-year Bobby Orr card. Let's go to page 2 here, Josh. While that's happening, we'll say hello to Scott Pope. What's going on, Scott? Todd McDonald, good evening to you. Happy to have you here to finish off the weekend. T-Dot in the house says, yes, it's 5 times harder to win a Stanley Cup now than it was versus the original 6 days, especially with parity. That's not parity. You got the wrong parity there, T-Dot. But I hear you. Goes on to say, not only that, Montreal was the mecca of hockey, so they had all the great players. That's true. C. Eddie B, what's going on? My local card collecting friend says, been taking in both of your shows since the beginning. Great to see you combining forces. That's nice. Hey, Josh?
Love it.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. T-Dot says, after the vintage, the auction is kind of weak. Well, it depends on what you're looking for, T-Dot. I mean, I think there's going to be some gems in there for a large cross-section of people. But yeah, not again, different strokes for different folks. Daniel A, always good to see you, buddy. Says the Richard 7.5 is a beauty. I mean, I don't know if you were here when I was just fawning over it for 10 minutes or so, both Josh and I. But yeah, Daniel, I love that card. Jeff McMahon says Boom Boom's grandson played for Nashville. Yes, he did. And there is Mike from Eastridge, my local LCS. Mikey, good to see you. All right. So let's see here. We are trying to get to page 2 here. I'm not sure why that is not. And I did take the advice we got last week, Josh, which was to use Firefox for the PWCC listings. And that is, we are in Firefox here, but it does not seem to want to register me clicking to the next page. And I don't know why that is.
It's probably because there's so many bidders that are bidding on the card that I want to win right now. That's the cynical side of me.
That's probably it. Here, I'm just going to I'm going to do a quick refresh here. I'm going to unshare.
I think it came up.
Oh, no, it didn't. It didn't. Let me just do a quick refresh here, guys, and we will try to get to page 2. Josh, you said there's one card that you're bidding on. I'm not going to make you talk about it, but what's your strategy? What are you thinking for strategy? Are you're winning it right now? Are you going to thinking about putting in a protectionary bid, or are you going to just wait to see kind of what happens as time goes by as far as the extended bidding goes?
Per usual, I have no strategy, but I did up my bid a little bit right before we started recording, knowing that I probably will be distracted and won't have time to go in and bid again. So I'm just going to ride it out, Jeremy.
Good call. I mean, see what happens, right? See what happens. Mike says the site seems to be down. The app is not working either. Okay, so that's probably not us. SSP Joel, good to see you. Another Calgarian. We got about at least 4 people from Calgary in the chat right now. Well, in the chat and one on the screen, as far as I'm aware of. So welcome to all my local collectors. Good to have you guys. And thank you for letting me know, Mike, that the app isn't working right now. So if the site is stagnating, we will just let that catch up. And I'm sure the fine folks at PWCC will work through that as best they can and as quick as they can. Thanks, JG. Thank you for that update as well. PWCC down right now. So let's just be patient. Give it a few minutes. I'm sure that we'll work that out. And in the meantime, Josh, All-Star game. The All-Star festivities were this weekend. The skills competition. I'm going to be honest. I did not watch any of the All-Star games. I was keeping up with headlines on my Sportsnet app. Caught a few of the highlights on social media. But, you know, the general narrative on the NHL All-Star game is that it's boring as heck. It's just like no one tries. They're not doing a great job of showcasing the skills of the All-Stars. To a degree, I understand it. You don't want to get hurt. You don't have a player injured. In baseball, it's much more important because the winning team has the home field advantage for the World Series. In hockey, the winners split $1 million. These guys don't need to split $1 million. Yeah. They're making $1 million a month. Some of them, right? Like, so there's really no incentive to compete hard in the All-Star game for NHL. And then you got the skills competition. I saw a few things. I saw Connor McDavid with the accuracy shooting, shoot down 4 targets in like 9.7 seconds. Connor McDavid is, to me, and this is controversial, but to me, he is probably the most skilled hockey player of all time, which I believe equates to the best hockey player of all time. Now, take this with a grain of salt, everybody, okay? When I say that, doesn't mean he's had the best career of all time. The best career might be Jean Beliveau or Henri Richard or Marc Messier. Those guys might have had the best career of all time. Mike Bossy, on a per season kind of average. I haven't said Lemieux. I haven't said Howe. I haven't said Wayne Gretzky yet. obviously Gretzky to me is the best player of all time. When you combine everything on ice skill, performance, personal accolades, team success, international success, all these different things. But if you're just looking at skill, who's the best player to ever lace them up and take a puck? For me, from what I've seen, like I love Denny Savard. We talked about him earlier, but Connor McDavid seems to do what Denny Savard could do at a higher speed, in 2020, in the 2020s, when players are just in much better physical condition. Anyway, I'm rambling here. What do you think about the All-Star game? What have you heard? T-Dot says right here, it was highly criticized All-Star weekend. I'm not surprised. What's your take? What takeaways do you have, Josh?
Oh, I have a few, but first, do you want to check if there's anyone still watching now that you said McDavid might be better than Gretzky? Did we lose our audience here? Or, wow. I love it, Jeremy, with a hot take. That is something to think about. Listen, the All-Star game is about showcasing your sport and your game and trying to bring in a new audience. It's a little more kid-driven, right? The older we get, because we know that the players don't, like you said, they don't try as hard. And I think it loses some of the appeal. Some of the fixes that we talked about on our show and that I would love to see, let me run this one by you. What about a breakaway challenge where winner takes all $1 million, where the final skater and the final goalie compete for $1 million? Winner take all.
Now there's something. No, there's $1 million for a player on the line, and it's you against me against you. That's exciting.
The goalie could win, the skater could win, right? It's mano a mano, have it a tournament style, and winner takes all. And I think when it gets down into that semifinal, quarterfinal range, you're going to have a lot of people trying pretty dang hard. Now I'm going to say something controversial. You ready?
Yeah.
Look at our viewer count. I don't think that the All-Star game, sorry, Toronto, should ever be in Canada again. And the only reason why I say that is hockey does not need to be more popular in Canada for the sport to grow and for our hobby to grow. It's already as popular as it could possibly be. Every All-Star game should either be in the United States, or if the NHL really wants to go big, take a week and a half off instead of a week and send your best players to Europe and make it a true showcase. And try to send your best players over there, get everyone involved. As far as this one goes, I think the tournament style is a little bit better than a traditional All-Star game. We thought that some of the skills challenges got a little hokey, right? The golf one and the one on the beach where they're shooting pucks at surfboards. I don't know about it. A little bit of a stretch for me, but it is what it is. Again, I just think that they need to do something to make it a can't miss event.
I agree. Your comment that the All-Star game should never be in Canada again, well taken point. I'm Canadian. I just heard they just announced in next year, the year after, it's going to be in Toronto. And I'm thinking to myself, it's great for people in the greater Toronto area, but I agree with you. Is that going to grow the game in the United States, where I'd like to see it grow, where I think the NHL would like to see it grow? I think it's more or less like, okay, we got to go to Canada once every 5 or 7 years because that's the ratio of teams we have. So we're going to do it in Toronto because it's the biggest market. But yeah, I'm with you. Our viewership has only gone up since you said that, Josh, and that makes sense. The Sports Cards Live viewer analytics or demographics are heavily in the United States, not Canada. So that's also a function.
Did you see the US TV rating disaster?
No. Oh, I heard something about that. Yeah. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we just saw a report, I think, from Sports Business Journal where the US TV ratings for the season are down 20% compared to last year. Now, there are some quote unquote silver linings, which I don't think matter because no matter the reason, 20% less people in the United States have seen an NHL game than they did on TV the previous year. It basically comes down to, for whatever reason, ESPN started putting NHL games as counter programming against Sunday Night Football, which traditionally you use like a Midwestern bowling tournament because you know that nothing is going to do well in that time slot, and it's where shows go to die. The other thing ESPN's been doing is putting most of their games here behind their ESPN Plus paywall. So making
Right.
so you not only can, and we've had that here in Minnesota with the Wild, where certain games are not on our regional sports network and are now behind the ESPN paywall. And then on TNT, what they're seeing is that a number of games have been blacked out. So TNT had a nationally televised Bruins game where all of New England was blacked out because of the New England Sports Network has TV rights. And again, I could go on, but all this comes down to is that somehow the NHL is creating TV deals where they're making it almost impossible to see games. And the sport, and then correspondingly, the hobby, for the hobby to grow, we need to expose it to more people. And and it needs to happen in the United States, and it still is impossible. I haven't told you this yet, but I don't know what it was like growing up in Canada when the Minnesota North Stars were in the 1991 Stanley Cup Finals. And maybe this is a good thing because we got killed by the Penguins. The only way for us to watch games was we had to buy pay-per-view on old satellite dishes. If you remember I had to listen to the games on the radio, and we're in the Stanley Cup Finals, Jeremy. That was the only way for us to watch it. We couldn't watch it. You had to have a satellite dish.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. By the way, I'm watching the PWCC website. It seems to still be down for me, both on my phone and on the computer. It's just we're getting a full. Oh, it just came back up on my phone. I believe. So let me just see what's going on. Maybe it's an old cache, because on the computer, I'm getting this guy right here, guys. On the, I'm trying to stop it and hit PWCC. That's a direct link. Let's do this. Let's just close that one for a second and go in here and just hit PWCC main page and see if that brings it up. Maybe we can't get to the auction, but we can get to their main site. And now it's down again on my phone. It's churning away on my phone again. I'm guessing a bunch of you are dealing with this right now as well. But we are watching it and hoping it comes back on soon, everybody. But we will see. In the meantime, let's go to some comments, Josh. And there are some in here about the All-Star game. First, though, SSP Joel says, are young guns still the go-to for modern-day hockey rookies? I think the easy, quick answer is just yes. Yes, they are. And it really depends on, your price point, how long you've been collecting, what you like. Josh and Troy did a great job a couple of weeks ago on their podcast talking about what are the main rookie cards for a player each year. I think you guys settled on, you got your Young Gun, your SP Authentic Future Watch, and the Cup. And then you guys talked about a few more. This might have been, I forget if this was a master class, but why don't you just speak to that a bit, Josh, and what your studies revealed?
Yeah, Joe, I would agree that the Young Guns are still the go-to for modern day rookies. They're going to be an anchor of every collection, but they're not. You have to be careful, though. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are great long-term investments, because what makes them pretty special is they are fairly accessible. And what you see as a result of that are, as a player gets more established, and he does well, the pop counts go up, up, and up. And at some point, when you got a guy like Kirill Kaprizov, whose PSA 10 Young Guns pop count is, I think, the fourth highest pop count of any hockey card of all time now, it's going to drive the value of that down, because there's that replaceability factor that we tend to talk a lot about, that if you're looking for long-term value, you want to find cards that are a little harder to replace than a Young Guns, but it's the flagship rookie. It's an iconic card. And if you're going to PC anyone, you're surely going to want it. And then you're right. I mean, we talked about what are the three staple cards. It's the Young Guns, the Future Watch Auto of $9.99, and then the Cup RPA. And there's different print runs on depending on the tier of the player. But then beyond that, we tried to identify, what are the next most iconic cards? Is it the Ice Premier's rookie? Is it an emerging one that we're seeing more and more activity on now with the OPG Platinum Seismic Gold, where people love gold shiny cards, right? And so you can flock to those, and just trying to identify what are some of the other cards that, if you're going to be a Leon Draisaitl collector, what are the 10 cards that you just have to have in your collection? And that's sort of the thought exercise that we've been going through.
Yeah, it's funny. There's right now, I've seen a listing for a Wayne Gretzky, I think it's 2018 or 19 O-Pee-Chee Platinum, a seismic gold. It's in a PSA 10 holder. And then there's the orange checkers, also in a PSA 10 holder. The gold's out of 50.
Yeah.
The orange is out of 25. And currently the gold is outperforming the orange in terms of the bid. Yet it's out, the population is twice as much, and the orange is a beautiful color match. So I think that sometimes, you know, in the hobby, we let the narrative, or we let what everyone else loves get us carried away and thinking, well, that's the best way to go. But there are options to that, and there are other ways to approach it. But I hear what you're saying about the rookie. You're definitely right. I think you know, just don't let the groupthink mentality influence you too much in this hobby. There are a lot of options and a lot of alternatives to everything out there. All right, continuing on. T-Dot says this was a highly criticized All-Star weekend. T-Dot says Mario Lemieux, probably the best hands ever. Hard to argue that, although I think Connor McDavid is probably right there with him. If not, right there with him. I'll leave it at that. Daniel wants to know, in your opinion, would you rather have put the Maurice Richard in the Premier Auction versus the Weekly? I don't know, Daniel. I think the Weekly Auction, the Premier, I don't know how much of a difference it makes. I think the people from PWCC might have a better gauge on the answer to that. So I just don't have a thought. Do you have a thought on that, Josh?
It did cross my mind, because that is a iconic, very rare special card. But I think when a card like that comes up, word spreads pretty quickly, and a lot of people know about it right now. So I don't think it'll hurt it too much as far as, and I'm not an expert on you're probably more of an expert on the PWCC auctions as far as like what really are the functional differences between the Premier and the Weekly. I mean, I know one's longer and one typically has higher value cards, but that's where my knowledge ends.
Yeah, maybe because the Premier does typically have higher valued cards. Maybe some higher value card buyers are not watching the Weekly because they're waiting to put their money into the Premier, and they may not even be aware it's on the platform right now. And if that's the case, then yes, I would rather put it in the Premier as the seller. But if you know, only their behind the scenes analytics would tell us, but I don't know if it's going to make a difference at this point. I just don't know. Maybe, very, very possibly. T-Dot says the stands were empty in Florida. I mean, I saw empty means no one was in them, T-Dot, but I hear what you're saying. I think that there were some people there, but yeah, you don't want empty seats at the All-Star game. Jeremy Foul Fireball, yes, I will be at the Burbank show, flying in on Thursday. Cannot wait. Ooh, baby says All-Star game was a joke. I find that very easy to believe. Daniel says, T-Dot, I once spent time talking with Paul Coffey, who played with Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. He said Wayne was the smartest player he ever played with, and Mario was the most skilled. Yeah, I don't think that's much of an argument there. And I think McDavid has both. Kevin says the All-Star game has been generally boring, but tolerable. The production seemed so disjointed this year and difficult to hang in there and watch. T-Dot says All-Star games won't grow the sport. It's all about TV in the USA. Very fair comment. Evan Thomas, really enjoying the episodes with Josh. Thanks for hosting. Hope everyone can hit the like button. Well, thank you, Evan Thomas. And yeah, I knew I picked a winner when I reached out to Josh. Jeff McMahon says ESPN Plus is the major reason for that 22%. So we're a little bit behind in comments here, about 8 minutes at the moment. Still waiting for PWCC website to come back online. Daniel says the only All-Star game I can tolerate is the Major League Baseball, and I don't watch that either. T-Dot says the USA likes big balls, football, basketball, baseball, not used to following a puck. Yeah, that's definitely something right there. Yeah, still down for you, Joel. Still down for me. I'll just try refreshing one time while I go over there. Let's see. LGCOPG says not participating in the 2022 Olympics was a missed opportunity for more U.S. exposure, because I think Team USA would have been loaded with young stars. Yeah, excellent point. For sure a missed opportunity. T-Dot says, look what happened to Yager's O-Pee-Chee Premier rookie card. The pop count is killing the price. It doesn't stop. I mean, any junk wax card, like there's no limit on the population. So very well. Oh, here we go. PWCC Marketplace says, Hey guys, our team is hard at work on a solution. We will have an update shortly. We deeply apologize for the inconvenience. All I want to say to that is it's understandable. PWCC made some changes to their auction process with all access extended bidding. And I'm just thankful that you guys popped in and let us know. So thank you for that, PWCC Marketplace. That comment came in 5 minutes ago. I'm only seeing it right now for the first time. So we'll wait for that update. Let me see if it's coming. Nothing yet, but thank you to PWCC, and please keep us updated. We have over 50 people in here watching with us right now, and that's wonderful. Yes, Jay-Z, it is down. Soccer Card says, will be interesting to see if PWCC blames. Well, why will that be interesting, Soccer Cards? Like, I mean, like that's the stupidest comment I've seen so far. Daniel A says, I don't like to compare players from different eras. I totally get that, Daniel. I don't love that either. But it's kind of just what we do as sports fans. But yeah, that's why they're never ending debates with no right or wrong answer. It's a card knock life. They still even have an all-star game. You're kind of surprised they still do it, huh? Alan S says, Mario played a much tougher game than Gretzky and McDavid. Well, he was also a lot bigger, so that's understandable. And Kevin says, empty seats at the All-Star game because the bulk of tickets go to advertisers, sponsors, and they go unused. Yeah, that's a great point right there, that's often the case. For sure.
One point you could probably make for Toronto is I doubt there'll be empty seats next year. Right?
There won't be an empty seat next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
There won't be. Not if it. There must have been the year after. It must be 2025 that they announced it for. I'm thinking because 2024 should have been announced by now. I would think. I think they keep those things announced a couple years in advance. But someone let us know, please. When is the All-Star game? The NHL All-Star game? Do you know it's in 2024, Josh? I could just be dead wrong.
I think it is 2024. But always checking is good. I saw Justin Bieber talk about being at the All-Star game next year, and so
there we go. Basement Breaks, assuming that Basement Breaks is verifying for us that it is 2024. Thank you, Hockey Barn Collectibles. Thank you, T-Dot. Everyone but me knew that it was 2024. I'm actually surprised that they're only announcing it now. But hey, or when they announced it last week or so, but that's great. Good to know. Yeah, yawn on the All-Star game in Toronto. I agree. I mean, I'd like to see it be somewhere else. JG, here's a good one for you, Josh. Thoughts on Owen Power, say his Young Guns SGC 10 available? I believe, Josh, I'm about 25 minutes into your most recent podcast, the Hockey Card Gong Show. And I believe it's Owen Power that you were talking about. If not this week, last week. What are your thoughts on Owen Powers and his Young Gun in an SGC 10 holder?
He's one of the three biggest chases from Series 1, and he did finish the last week before the All-Star break pretty strong. I think he scored his first 3 goals. It's just going to come down to he's a defenseman. And where is the long-term value in defense? I think now you're going to pay a premium for it. If it's something that you just got to have and you're willing to do that, go ahead and get it. I think coming into the summer, you'll probably get it a lot cheaper than it is right now because the pop will go up. We'll be into the buying season. And one of the things that Troy and I have been talking a lot, Jeremy, and it'd be interesting to get your opinion on this is, the season that Makar had last year, I think it started to change the frame of reference for how people look at defensemen. But that luster seems to be wearing off a little bit. It's been a bad year for Mercider. That hasn't helped. Makar's been good, but he's not breaking records left and right this year. And I feel that, where we maybe thought 9 months ago that this is going to be the new era of collecting defensemen and defenseman values, I'm just not so sure that is going to happen, despite how good Makar is.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that he's not having a follow-up season to the last one that is as good of or not better than last year. If he was, I think you would see more continued excitement towards defensemen. Miro Heiskanen is another great defenseman that comes to mind. I mean, there are several great. Erik Karlsson's having a great season in San Jose, but he's buried on a pretty bad team there. But yeah, it's funny. There was a Quinn Hughes, another one I like in Vancouver. I was thinking that there's going to be more love for defensemen. I always thought the defensemen got a bit of an unfair treatment by the hobby. I mean, why not defensemen? You only have 5 skaters on the ice at any given time, and 2 of them are defensemen. They're obviously a critical part of the game. And Bobby Orr is, one of the most popular players in the hobby of all time, and he was a defenseman. Ray Bourque, Paul Coffey, Nick Lidstrom, Zdeno Chara, Brian Leach. There's been some amazing defensemen along the way. But interesting comments, and we'll see how the hobby.
Last thing I'll throw in there is just. Oh, so sorry. It's just a Buffalo comment. I think Buffalo is the most exciting hockey hobby team to watch. They're just loaded, and so I think that is, if you want to maybe buy or invest in Empower, that is something in his favor. That they're just gonna, you got Tage Thompson, you've got Rasmus Dahlin, you've got Dylan Cousins, who people are high on. They've got the best young crop of, call it hobby stars. And so, they'll be exciting to watch from there. And then the last thing, Jeremy, is ultimately, I think from the best that we can figure out is the hobby loves goal scorers. And so it's going to take a defenseman to score 40 plus goals. And that's really hard to do, obviously.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're right about that. Andrew Marks, yes, the site is down. We're waiting for it to come back up, and we'll give it a little bit still and continue to chat and interact with you guys. So keep the comments coming, everybody. Jay-Z says SGC 10 power is fine for me. T-Dot says it put a lot of heat on Darnell Nurse in Edmonton. Yeah, no doubt, T-Dot. He's making a lot of money there and not doing too much. Stanley Cup hangover for the Avalanche and Cale Makar could be. Basement Break says Bobby Orr or bust for defensemen. Yeah, like Ray Bourque should get way more hobby love. He gets hobby love from me. Paul Coffey, another one, doesn't get it, but I just think I think they should get it. And I think right now it's narrative, and it's just a lot of people saying, well, they don't get any love, so I'm not going to give them any love. Well, we can change that if we want. Jay-Z says defenseman rookies never hold value. Never. Well, I mean, you can still get a high grade Ray Bourque rookie card for, $5,000. That's not no value, but Nick Lidstrom, his rookie cards are in the junk wax era. So there's nothing of value there, but same goes for Peter Forsberg and Timo Solani and Jaromir Jagr and Martin Brodeur. And I mean, some of the all-time greats. So that's not a great one to talk about. Dahlin has been the best D this season. Yeah. Speaking to what you were talking about, Josh, in Buffalo. Jay-Z says, buy a season later and save your money. I mean, that's just great advice. Peep says, could it be Rasmus Dahlin looks even better than Makar right now? Maybe when Makar is at full health and back in stride, will it still be the case? We'll have to wait and see. Half the Avalanche is injured. Daniel says, Orr is the only defenseman that gets true hobby love. Well, okay, I just want to say one thing. There are people out there who collect Brian Leach. I know for a fact. There are people who collect Zdeno Chara. I know for a fact. There are people who collect Raymond Bourque. There are people who collect Cale Makar. Hardcore. Van Mash collects him hardcore. So there is some defensemen get hobby love, but they're not getting it in this critical mass that is going to vault them into the top, 10 a top 10 list of players who receive hobby love.
And I don't think, Jeremy, that this is unique to hockey, right? Quarterbacks get the love in the NFL. Home run hitters get the love in baseball. The defensive player of the year in basketball isn't going to have the value that the top scorer, right, is going to have either. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast, is that in hockey, we tend to love our goal scoring centers or wingers. And those are the guys that predominantly drive the value.
Yep. JG says, can't wait to see Luke Hughes next year. Yeah, will that be the third or fourth Hughes brother to enter the league? That'll be pretty cool. Jay-Z says, you're right, D-men are critical to the game, but the hobby doesn't reflect it. No, the hobby doesn't. Joel says, just asking questions because the site is down. Thoughts on holding Upper Deck flagship wax 20 to 23? I don't have any thoughts on that, Joel. It's not my angle. I don't hobby that way. Josh, any comments from you on this?
I think it comes down to it's a little bit of luck of the draw. Are you going to have an Austin Matthews type player in any one of your flagship releases? And sure, 3 or 4 years down the road, the value is going to go up on that. If it turns out that like a 2018 year release, which outside of the, maybe emergence of Darlene looks a little weak, then you're probably not going to do as well in that. It just depends on what the chase is for that. And that's really true about any wax. We just, there was a record sale for a case of 2015, the Cup, where someone just paid $42,000 US for essentially 36 Cup cards, right? Trying to chase that McDavid rookie. Now, $1,200 a card, that seems like a lot to me, but yeah, I mean, that's an example of there can be good money in wax, and you're not going to get a crazy return, Joel, like you would on the Cup with flagship, but you could double it if there's a top tier guy in that, 3 or 4 years down the road.
And Joel, by the way, thank you for the question. Do appreciate it. And my thoughts, on second thought, my thoughts would reflect what Josh said. I've heard a lot of people say investing in wax is like investing in the rookie index for that year. You have a shot at all the rookies. And if you're having an unopened case, likely there's one of every card in there at least, as far as the rookies, the young guns goes. So it really just depends. But as is said down here by Basement Breaks, next year's wax is the one to hold. That's the one with Connor Bedard. It's funny how there's so many Connors in the league. Like, the two best players in the NHL are likely named to be Connor by next season, which a nice little coincidence there. You
want a crazy Bedard hockey card stat, Jeremy? So we just reported on, there's a record sale that we found today, and I'm pulling it up right now to make sure that I get this right, because this blew my mind. So in a 2021-22 Upper Deck CHL, Bedard Stars card, which is auto, it's a sticker auto, right? It's a second year CHL card. Raw just sold for $2,102 US. So here you have a second year CHL non-numbered raw sticker auto card selling for over $2,100 US.
Yeah, that's a big number. That's just a big number. All right, let's keep on going. Mike Kemmel, unless the hobby grows, there will never be money for defensemen. Just wait till Bedard gets to the NHL and all cards people will sell to get into him. I mean, that's a legitimate comment there, right? People might be selling off other holdings to buy Connor Bedard. And we've seen it before. We saw that happen with Connor McDavid. I mean, the hobby was a different place back in 2016 when his big cards were coming out. But we saw that. I saw a ton of people just waiting for McDavid, and that's what's happening with Bedard right now. The funny thing is that Bedard cards, the ones that are out there, like the Upper Deck Team Canada World Juniors, they're selling for more than McDavid's are from that same series. And McDavid's got a pretty good career under his belt already. Bedard hasn't done anything yet. So that's just that's how the hobby is, right? It's all, we love to prospect and we want to be right. And we want to watch the player that we invested in, because at that money it's investing. We want to watch a player we invested in do great things and watch them on the highlights and, win awards and Stanley Cups eventually. We mentioned Ray Bork and Drew Herndon. Let me get that potograph in the house. How's it going, buddy? Says Ray Bork. I know Drew's a big an Abs fan, I believe. Tita says my Ray Bork rookie is gold. I'm a big fan of the Ray Bork rookie. Anthony George always liked Chris Chelios, defenseman who plied his trade mostly for the Chicago Blackhawks. T-Dot collects Raymond Bork. There's a defenseman. Jake Dahl collects Brian Leach and Raymond Bork, couple of defensemen. Jay-Z says my Paul Coffey rookie is a BGS 9. Ending tonight was a 270 when the site went down. Getting no love. Yeah, it's also a BGS 9, Jay-Z. 80s OPC cards and BGS holders tend to be assumed to be sheet cut, and just a lot of people don't like that. But some do, and each to their own. Daniel says maybe they need to change the position name from defenseman to what? To like halfback or midfielder or mid-ice. I like the comment, Daniel. Thinking outside the box. I always like that. Jake Dahl says, I bought your Brian Leach Journey jersey quad from you on ComC. Thank you for that. Thank you for the deal, Jake. That's awesome. Mike Kemmel says, Rasmus Dahlin is great, will never be worth a lot, as too many good offensive players on his team. That's an interesting comment right there, Josh, because what he's saying is that, like, you know, sometimes if the defenseman is the best player on the team, they may not be overshadowed too much. In the case of Buffalo, where you have Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, and then a whole bunch of up-and-comers up front kind of overshadowing you, I can see that being, I think that's a pretty astute comment that Mike is making. What do you think?
Oh, I think he's spot on. And it goes beyond defensemen. It's, for whatever reason, when we look at all the teams in the NHL, it seems like the hobby only has enough room to really get behind one guy. Why? You know, you look at Edmonton as the best case, right? Take Connor McDavid out of the equation. Can you make an argument that Leon Draisaitl is the best player in the NHL? I think you can. It might not be true, but, and again, he gets comparatively no love to another great example would be Mitch Marner, right? Many people think, and it's probably true, he's having a better season than Matthews. Does he get any love in the hobby? No. It's like the hobby kind of decides that, okay, here's the guy from the team that we're going to throw our support behind, and then it's sort of table scraps left for everyone else. And I think, you know, just to round out too, going back to now defensemen a little bit, it is the one thing that's interesting about this era is that the defensemen are much more offensive, right? And the game seems to be heading that way, where they're joining the rush. They're much more skilled from an offensive perspective. They're not as these huge, big, bulking bruisers that, you know, going back to like Zdeno Chara, right, is a great example. And, you know, we'll see over the next 5 years kind of how that evolves. And we might have a 40-goal scoring defenseman. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility, whether that's Cale Makar or somebody else. And so if that happens, it'll be interesting to see what the hobby impact is.
Yeah, that could be a case of the rising tide lifts all defenseman-ships. If we do have a 40-goal season out of a defenseman, definitely possible. I just want to say that Mitch Marner does get love in the hobby, as you know, especially in Toronto. Quite a few people, like even Nylander does as well. He's having a great year. But you're right. It's all. And then what happened to Jonathan Tavares? I mean, no one even. He's lost a ton of hobby love, especially after moving from the Islanders to Toronto. But the other, you make a case with Draisaitl, but even the better case is Evgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh, who's been playing in Sidney Crosby's shadow for over 15 years and has had seasons where he could have been argued to be the best player in the NHL. There's been seasons where he could be argued to have been better than Sidney Crosby. So that, you're right, that is the case, Josh. The hobby decides what player they want to focus on. And then if you're not, I think Mitch Marner might be the only real except. Even Malkin has collectors. There's a couple of accounts that come to mind on Instagram who showcase their Malkin cards. But yeah, overshadowing is it's an issue, and it's almost an unfair disadvantage that a lot of players have hobby wise. Mike Kemmel, Dahlin is great. Yeah, we did that one. Hockey Cards Up, boys, great show. Love that you're both doing this. Love the Gong Show too. How could you not? Thank you, Hockey Cards Up. Joel says, with Bedard coming to the league next year, my fear is Upper Deck will let the printing machines run 24/7. I think you're going to see the biggest production run ever next year with Connor Bedard. I think that's a good business move for Upper Deck. And I think that the hobby will eat that stuff up, just like we did with McDavid in 2015-16.
But what an opportunity, Jeremy, for the NHL. That's what I'm most interested in. Here you have this kid who, and just what I've observed in my personal life, is a transcendent character, meaning the people that don't love and follow the NHL or don't collect hockey cards, they've heard the name Connor Bedard. They can't screw this up, right? They've got to really get behind marketing these players, marketing their personality. And not only do you have Bedard, but you have a all-time great in McDavid, who's doing things from a production standpoint that hasn't been done in 25, 30 years. You have a whole other crop of young. You've got Trevor Zegras, who you go and you watch any youth hockey highlight where you have kids flipping pucks over net and 8-year-olds trying Michigan goals, right? And then all the comment says is the Zegras effect, right? The NHL has to understand that this is a player-driven league, and I think that our league gets so constrained by the heritage of the teams. We get it. The heritage for the Montreal Canadiens is amazing. The Maple Leafs heritage is amazing, but that's not what drives eyeballs to sports, right? You look at any sport that's growing right now, it's about the players, and the NHL has to put the teams aside and start to shine the spotlight on the players. That's the only way, and they have such an amazing opportunity right now, and that's why looking at like the TV ratings and how maybe the All-Star game went, and some of these things are just really disappointing.
There is a tremendous opportunity if the NHL can start marketing their players better in the south of the border, like or in your neck of the woods. I agree with you completely. Okay, Guy Incognito collects Zdeno Chara. There's a great defenseman for sure. Hockey Cards Up says it's been confirmed Upper Deck is printing 30,000 Young Guns and hobby boxes this year alone. Thoughts? So I think you're referring to Aaron Lapointe's video. And the only thing I'll say to that is that the numbers don't tell the whole story, even based on what Aaron put out there. And I watched his video, but there are other factors that come into play. For example, just because it says what it says there doesn't mean that that's the full production run. They also make extras. They make extras for backups and for customer service and replacement. So the number is, I think Aaron is probably pretty close in his analysis, but it's, I don't know that we can say it's been confirmed just because some math was run. All that said, if he is right, and they are printing no less than 30,000 Young Guns and hobby boxes this year alone, my thoughts are, actually it's lower than I thought. I thought that the McDavid year was about 75 to 100,000 McDavid Young Guns altogether. So if they're only doing 35,000 or 30,000 in this year's Series 1, Series 2, whichever one that came from, I'm not that bent out of shape about it. If they started serially numbering them, I think they tank in value, but they don't serially number them, and that's because they know that that's not the right play for them. Let's keep on going. We got a lot of comments here. Matt says, looks like I'll be saving tonight's PWCC funds for the Burbank show. Be there on Friday. Let's cross our fingers for some 50s and 60s hockey. Matt, I will see you there, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know, has PWCC made any further announcements on the status of the auction? Are they suspending it? I'm watching, guys. I'm watching on my other screen to see if their site, comes back online. But so far, it is still down, and that's why if you've joined us late, we are not talking about the PWCC auction right now because the site is down at the moment. Josh Sherber says, Brent Burns, loved him while in Minnesota and was so happy to see him flourish once he left. Yeah, he had a great career in San Jose for sure. Now I believe he is in Carolina. Someone asked right here, Mike says, who do you guys think is the best player to collect in Carolina? I was going to say Brent Burns, but I'd actually say Aho or Svechnikov. I think both those guys have very bright futures, even though they're a few years into their career. Josh, who do you think is the best player to collect on the Carolina Hurricanes?
I'll get to that, but Brent Burns trade, worst trade in Wild history, bar none. So just had to get that out there. It's cathartic, Jeremy, to get off your chest sometimes these things.
All good,
I would go Svechnikov because he's so young. The thing that really stinks about the Carolina situation, and hey, listen, even though we're the state of hockey, we're still pretty small potatoes from a hockey market perspective. It's just the market. It's it's one of those markets where I just don't think that especially even too, given how they're playing, that there isn't a lot of hype or you don't get a lot of help from the market.
JG says, so the Red Wings, it's Larkin, Sider, and Raymond. Who gets the most hobby love? I couldn't even answer that myself. From what I see, it's Larkin. I mean, that's what I've seen historically, but I'm looking at a 6-year window, not a 12-month window. Josh has probably taken a shorter look, so I'll defer this question to Josh. He'll have a much more current view to this. It's
Mo Sider, and for all intents and purposes, his second season has been kind of a disaster so far. Now he is playing late, and we talked about, there was an interesting article that we found where they switched his defensive partner this year, and the hypothesis was that I think it was Sherratt was playing with them for the first, I don't know, 40 games of the year, and their expected goal shares was like way under what it was supposed to be. And now I think Jacob Wallman, they switched him with, and he's playing much better. But my thought on that is, if you're going to be a transcendent defenseman, it doesn't matter who you're paired with. You got to rise above it. And we're not anti-Mo Seider. It's just that you have to objectively say it hasn't been a good follow-up to his Calder winning campaign. But I think that too. So between him and Raymond, whoever can score more goals and put up more points is probably, Larkin from a height perspective has just been around too much and hasn't achieved what he needs to get into that upper echelon or top tier.
Thank you for that, Josh. Mike Kemmel says, love your Malkin comment. I'm glad someone else is saying it. I have been for years, especially how good the team with him was while Crosby was injured. Yeah, he's carried that team, along with the rest of the lineup. But when Crosby has been hurt in Pittsburgh over the past 15 years, it's not the end of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Malkin has been the second best player in the league for several seasons that Crosby was the best. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Mike Kemmel. Daniel wants to know, will it hurt the NHL if Bedard ends up in Arizona? What about if he ends up in Columbus? Will it hurt the NHL? Like, having Bedard in the NHL is only good for the NHL. So the question, I think, Daniel, is, will it hurt the NHL more if he, or, what effect will it have on the NHL if he ends up in one of these like bottom tier fan base teams? And yes, of course, that's not going to be as good as if he ends up in an Original Six market, a Canadian market. Those are kind of I would think the best places for him to end up. But like LA, what if he went to LA? I mean, what's that like? Remember, Gretzky went to LA, and all of a sudden we've got 10 new teams in the United States. Bedard in LA, I'd be really happy about. Bedard on the Rangers, I'd be really happy about. Chicago, Boston. Listen, he's not going to go to Boston. We know that. Chicago, I'd be happy about. Arizona, I wouldn't be so. That's not going to make me feel good about the love that he would get in the hobby. Same thing if he goes to Columbus, Carolina, another place. I don't know. Buffalo's a better destination for him. Detroit would be a great place for him to go as far as hobby love goes. I don't know. Hopefully he comes to me in Calgary, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. I don't think it's not as good for the NHL if he ends up in Arizona or Columbus. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you from a market perspective that LA would be good. What I don't like about LA or any West Coast team is the time zone, right? If you're in Carolina and you want to see Connor Bedard play, what is it? 9 p.m., 10 o'clock? It's 10 o'clock when the game starts. How does a 12-year-old kid watch Connor Bedard play? So I think that it goes back to, now the NHL has a scheduling problem because lots of people watch the Golden State Warriors, and it comes down to these national TV deals here in the US and getting good time slots, having West Coast teams play earlier so more people can see them. But I generally agree with you. I think for the game to grow and for the hobby to grow, sorry, Canada, but it's best that he plays in the US and in the central or eastern time zone. I think that's if you want to look at it purely objectively and don't use your heart as a fan at all, that's objectively probably what's best for the hobby.
Yeah, no, that you're so right about that. The time zone is important. I guess I think about, Gretzky did go to LA, and that only grew hockey in the States, but maybe that was a different time, hard to make that comparison, I suppose. But you make a good point. A 12-year-old in the central time zone, the East Coast, how late are they going to be able to stay up to watch Connor Bedard play? Nowadays, maybe they're just on their phones or their iPads in bed watching it anyway, or they're watching highlights or subscribing to the NHL network and watching it again in bed as they're, when they should be sleeping. I don't know. I still think, LA is a better option than many, but the East Coast, you're probably right, would be better. Card Knock Life says, he needs to land in a big market city. I think the NHL certainly wants that. I know us hobbyists, Upper Deck wants him to end up in Montreal. That is the best case scenario. It's East Coast. He's in Canada, which is still good. It's Montreal, rabid fan base. I think that's a good outcome. I wonder, but then Chicago. I mean, Chicago has a good shot at him just based on how bad they are right now. Let's keep on going, though, guys. David G says, good evening. Very impressive that you guys have filled the void. Thank you. We're still waiting for the PWCC site to come up. We now are seeing this message for the first time is now coming up. It says, we apologize for the interruption. Our website is currently undergoing maintenance and should be back shortly. Okay, well, I'm glad that they've at least updated what we see instead of an error page. And as we do know, they did pop in here about half an hour ago and let us know that they were working on it. So we will continue to sit here with you guys. Josh, we have almost 80 people with us, so no point in stopping now. Vintage card collector, guys, thoughts on Kaprizov long-term? Listen, Josh is the expert on Kaprizov. All I will say before I turn it over to Josh is that he was a rookie at an older age than most rookies were. I forget how old he was, but I'll also call out Teemu Selanne, who was 22 in his rookie season and went on to have an amazing Hall of Fame career and break all sorts of rookie scoring records, and maintains a high level of hobby love here, 10 years after he retired. Josh, you are keeping your eye. He's your guy, your city, your favorite player on your favorite team. I'm guessing he's your favorite player.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think long-term as far as Kaprizov goes?
Love Kaprizov. If I could adopt him and drive him to practice every day, I would. He's the first true superstar the Minnesota Wild have ever had. And yes, I know Marian Gaborik played on our team. Oh, you want to go through the announcement real quick and we'll get back to it?
Yeah. So guys, I just saw this. PWCC, thankful to them, put this here in our chat 3 minutes ago, saying that we will push the auction back 24 hours. All access extended bidding will start at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific tomorrow night. So basically the same thing that they were planning to do tonight. All bids will remain intact from when the site went down. So unfortunate for anyone who is planning to do their bidding tonight. And I guess, hope everyone is available tomorrow to bid on these items as well. Josh and I will have a discussion to see if we are going to be able to come back and do some of this tomorrow night. As of right now, I am likely able to. Got to talk to my wife. Josh, what about you? We can talk offline as well, but tomorrow night.
I'll talk to my boss as well, and we'll see where that. But I think there's a good chance.
All right. Appreciate that. Well, but let's get through. We got comments here, guys, and I'm good to keep on going and talking to everybody here and having some fun interaction. So T-Dot says he'll end up in Chi-Town. I used to call it Chi-Town, and then my buddy said, no, it's not. How do you say? Did you say Chicago?
Shy.
I know. Shy. I'm like,
you gotta let me though. My boy Kaprizov. I got interrupted. I'll
sorry.
be quick. I promise. I'll be quick. I'll be quick. But I can't let this go. You're right. He was a 2015 draft class. He then played in the KHL for a number of years. He's 24 when he went to the NHL. That doesn't help. But he is everything to the Wild. You can't appreciate what he does in the box scores. And honestly, Jeremy, he gets very little help from a point production standpoint from his team. The Wild have Sam Steele, and I'm sorry to all the Sam Steele collectors out there. I know there's a lot of you, but centering his line with Zuccarello, and Zuccarello has been really good for him. They have good chemistry. They need to upgrade him there. The other thing that I think is most amazing about Kaprizov is his passing. He puts the most insane pucks on people's sticks, and his teammates are never ready for it. The guy should have 40% more points than he does because his teammates blow goals that he literally puts the puck on a silver platter for them, and they just can't bury it. So, and as far as a long-term perspective, I think the age thing is going to hurt him, and ultimately what he's able to produce, if the Wild can win, which, this is Minnesota, that never happens. And whether, I don't know how people believe on the whole Russian kind of factor, but I don't buy into that as much, but some people do.
I'd like to see. I like the chemistry he's built with Matt Zuccarello. Those two seem to be really just gelling with each other. Seem to have a great energy there. But thank you for those insights. And yeah, 24 is a rookie. That's old. He's not like an 18-year-old who came in and lit it up in his rookie year. He's had 6 years of experience to get there. And that's, at the end of the day, his long-term isn't as long-term as a standard rookie. So keep that in mind, vintage card collector. T-Dot says hockey's entrenched with hubs in winter climates. Yeah, it's mostly a northern sport. Jeff McMahon says, and he's got, notice the Red Wings logo in his avatar, says if Larkin resigns here, he'll jump up again. Yeah, I would think so. Larkin was like the number 2 guy behind McDavid in the 15-16 rookie class. So that makes sense. Goes on to say Sider has been much better the past few months. Kevin says, I completely forgot about the auction because the conversation is so damn good. Glad you're enjoying it, Kevin. Jake says PWCC loaded back up and then I guess just went down for 24 hours. 450 says, imagine if Young Gun's price on release date, imagine his Young Gun's price on release date if he ends up with the Habs, $1,000 all day long, right? I remember Lafreniere was at $400 out of the gate USD. I would say Bedard is at least $1,000 out of the gate if he ends up with the Habs.
If you pull one
anyway, it might not even matter where he ends up.
If you pull one, sell it. Because like we talked about, we know that they're going to print a lot of them. We know that they're going to be easily replaceable, and people are going to go completely bananas. We just talked about it, $2,100 for a second-year CHL sticker auto that's not numbered, right? So the market is going to be insane, and there's no way that you won't buy that card cheaper in the next offseason, unless he scores, 100 goals his first year, which I don't know. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if he has 100, if he does 40 goals, 100 points, those values could maintain. They could stay where they are. I mean, Connor McDavid, as far as I can remember, never really came down in value between like 2016, early 16 until ever really. Maybe some dips with the market in the last year or so, but those cards are, these generational guys. What has, like Crosby and Ovechkin, we've seen peaks and valleys with their cards. Crosby, especially when he got hurt and would be out for the majority of a season. Obviously, the values are going to come down. Watch what happens with Steph Curry over the next couple of weeks now that he's out for a few weeks.
Another big factor is going to be whether Upper Deck tries to put him in Series 1 or Series 2. My guess is Series 2, but if you've looked at the last couple of years, the gem rate, right? So the amount of cards when they're submitted to grading that gem has been dramatically different between Series 1 and Series 2. You look at like Cole Caulfield or Trevor Zegras from last year at like 30% and 27% versus Sider and Raymond that are in the upper 60s, almost 70% gem rate. And so you get built-in scarcity by the print quality of the cards, depending on the series that they end up in and what that overall gem rate is. And so probably the best thing for a Bedard long-term value wouldn't be as fun for collectors trying to grade and flip right away, would be to have one of those lower gem rates. If it's 70%, I don't see any way values can hold high over the long run.
Yeah, fair comments. Gem rate pretty important to consider. Mike at Eastridge says Columbus would produce sick patches if that's where Bedard ended up. He's already sold out the Saddle Dome. For the minor league game here. I heard about that. I'm not going, but I definitely heard about it. LGC says for me to prepare to go to Toronto next February, I can see Steve Menzie putting on an early expo for the All-Star game. I wonder if that would be the case. I know that the NHL has done card shows during the All-Star game, and I don't know that they would partner with Menzie to do it, in Mississauga. So I don't see that happening. LGC, I don't think that would happen. But hey, prove me wrong. I mean, it's just my personal thoughts at the moment. Colin Murray says LA is in 9th place. He ain't going there. No, I never thought he would go there. It just meant like if he were to, that would be like I would think a pretty ideal destination. Maybe not the optimal, but ideal still. Hockey Barn, Bedard to the Habs. Love to see that for sure. I'm going to go down to, we're almost there, so never mind. We'll just go in order here. Mike Kemmel says, why National Treasure set in 2013 gets so little love? RCs are just like Cup, but costs are, it's probably because it's the only year they ever did it, Mike. And, brand equity is a thing in our hobby. And there was only 1 year of National Treasures hockey. Personally, I love the cards. I agree they're beautiful. Upper Deck Premier Collection kind of picked up where that left off. They look very similar. And it's almost too bad that there's not equity in National Treasures because of Premier. But in any, or is it Prime or Premier? It's Premier. Yeah.
Premier.
Yeah. Hockey Card says Sider over Raymond because of his personality. Both are going to put up numbers. They are young. Very fair comment. Daniel says, I think Bedard ends up in Chicago. That would be great. I agree. Joel, thank you so much. Appreciating you sticking around. Tita says Zuccarello is amazing. Kaprizov is the Russian McDavid. Fair call. Yeah, and Malkin's the Russian Crosby, and Draisaitl's the German McDavid, and all those things, right? Basement Break says a good comparable for Kaprizov is Panarin. No, I always thought so, actually. Josh, what do you think? Is Panarin a good comparable for Kaprizov? Both.
Well, I hope not. From a hobby perspective,
they were both older rookies, right?
Yeah. From a hobby perspective, maybe. I think that is good. Again, I think when you watch him, though, is a couple of things on Kaprizov is he's a small guy in the 5'10", but he's 205 pounds, and he is so strong. If there's a battle along the boards, more than 9 times out of 10, he comes away with the puck. He is everything to this team. He's their primary setup man. He's their finisher, their closer. I personally think he's better than Panarin. I just don't think I think that the Wild have to find a better center for him. That it's just killing them not to have, a guy like Sam Steele, who's not a horrible hockey player. He just shouldn't be centering a line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello. But Basement Break said it's a fair comparison. Yeah,
it might be the best one out there right now, but you certainly bring some additional layers.
And I'm a homer, so there you go. Yeah, take that with a grain of salt too.
That's all right. T-Dot says, unless you are fishing for rarity on Bedard, not sure what that's about. Good evening, Mitch Grotman in the house. What's going on? T-Dot says, was watching the 72-73 OPC logo cards on eBay, booming. Now Islanders fetched $740. Plus, Daniel says, Jeremy, has Steve toyed, that being Steve Menzie, who owns the Expo, has Steve toyed with the idea of doing 3 shows in Toronto every 4 months? Not that I'm aware of, Daniel. Not that I'm aware of. Mike Kemmel says, Bedard can end up in LA. Anaheim is LA. Fair comment. I mean, it's possible. Definitely. Tito says, watch how they play. He's a mini McDavid. I think he's talking about Kaprizov. Yeah, and I agree with that, T-Dot. He's, as Josh just said, he's their everything. He's got skill, speed, hockey sense. I mean, Kaprizov's a great player. Will he stay in the NHL for 10 more years? Will he go home to Russia, maybe where he's more comfortable? Will he stay healthy? Will he have talent surrounding him to keep him at the upper end of his potential and producing and being on the hobby's radar? All very tough questions. I'll tell you, I'm not investing in Kirill Kaprizov. I think he's a wonderful player, but I'm not investing in any young player really. So that shouldn't take you by surprise. Don't make you think that means something when I say that. It just means that there's other players I would probably be investing in. Now, collecting is a bit different. If you're collecting Kaprizov because you love watching him play, maybe you're a Wild fan, maybe you're a fan of Russian-born players, whatever it might be, or you just love his style, by all means, collect his cards because that will help you enjoy being his fan longer. Cards are a way, I find, at least for us card collectors, Josh, card collecting is a way to have more at stake in the games you're watching. It's like betting on sports. You're going to be
100%.
More into it if you have money on the line. Well, having money in a card of a player who's in a game or, competing for the Stanley Cup, that adds a huge level of excitement. So go for it, I would say. Mitch says Bedard to Chicago would be a nightmare for those of us worried about patch swapping. Yeah, it would be, Mitch, but this is a great opportunity for guys like you and me to put the pressure to Upper Deck to say, document every single Bedard patch that ever comes out of your factory or your third-party vendor's factory. We want to see images of these before they get packed out. I mean, they're going to have to do that. This might be this might be the tipping point, Mitch, on what for them to actually make an archive public to the hobby to see what patches are legitimate and which ones are not. So love the comment, Mitch. And if he ends up there, this could be one of those things that it could be like a not even a blessing in disguise. I think it's a blessing if he ends up in Chicago, original Six City, big fan base, et cetera, et cetera. But if from a hobby perspective, there could be additional blessings beside it being good for the strength of the hockey card hobby. It could also be good in terms of changing the way Upper Deck protects its consumers in the long run.
Hey, Jeremy, Josh from Minnesota has a question too for you. Do you think that the fake cards in general is going to be a particular problem with Connor Bedard next year?
I mean, by fake cards, what do you mean? Like counterfeit cards or
counterfeit cards, or just the whole gamut? How big of an issue is that going to be?
Where there is money, there are nefarious characters, right? Bad actors. So yeah, it probably will be. Maybe they'll try and knock off an Upper Deck Young Gun or an SB Authentic Future Watch and add a counter, a fake auto on there. Or maybe just non-autograph cards, maybe simple paper cards like the Beso Peachy could be a target for counterfeiting. I don't know. I think that the grading companies are going to have to be on their toes to be able to determine if a card is a counterfeit or not. So I don't know.
I would think IP autos would be what I would be most wary of as a collector. Any raw card that doesn't have a manufacturer auto on it, you have to be really, really careful of that.
Yeah, and the saving grace there is that in IP or in-person autos of players who also have pack-pulled autos are not that hotly pursued by current hobbyists. It's more of a I want to get it for myself and keep it in my collection. If I'm then going to go sell it on a public marketplace, the people that are buying those are often going to be not hardcore collectors. I don't think they might be new people who would have a very bad experience if they bought a fake or counterfeit auto, a counterfeit in-person auto. The nice thing about today's hobby is that there are pack-pulled, manufacturer authenticated autographs, and those are that I would never buy an in-person autograph of a player who has a pack-pulled autograph, like in modern day, off of somebody I don't know.
No, I get that, and you wouldn't do that because you've been doing this for so long and you know so much. The part that worries me is that because Connor Bedard, I think, has the ability to bring a bunch of new collectors into the hobby, and just like you said, right? If somebody sees here's a Bedard autograph card on eBay for $450, all the other autograph cards I'm seeing are $2,000. I'm going to go and snatch this up, and that is part of their early experience into the hobby. And then to find out a day, a week, a month later that you got duped, that's a tough thing. And I think that actually, as I'm kind of thinking through this as we're talking, this is where primarily too, like the eBay authenticity guarantee is probably a good, and I know PWCC uses Mike Baker authentication, and having these layers of protection that service providers are starting to build in the hobby is probably a good thing and should help in that regard.
You're right. You make a great call. I didn't think of that that authentication thing might be very helpful and PWCC with Mike Baker. Now, I don't know if Mike Baker authenticates autographs, or I don't even know if PWCC will sell an IP auto. I would caution them probably not to, unless they have an autograph authenticator on staff. And I don't think Mike Baker is that guy. I think he's a card authenticator, but it's a Card Knock Life, says Jeremy, is the Canadian David Letterman, just without the beard. Thank you very much. It's a Card Knock Life. Josh Sherber says, Josh, being from Minnesota, do you follow Ottinger at all, even though he's in Dallas? If so, thoughts? I know goalies are not the greatest investment. I'm going to take this one first, Josh, which is
go for it.
Ottinger is my pick for a goalie to collect. I think he's going to be the best goalie in the league. I think, you're going to have him, you have Shesterkin. There's some other guys coming up. Ottinger is my pick. I watched him play very closely, and I think he's the next great goalie. So there you go, Josh Sherber. Those are my thoughts. What about you, Josh Madigan?
Okay, so I'll couple of see here, Farmington. Oh, where is it? Farmington. That's where I live. Ottinger's a Farmington boy here in the Twin Cities suburbs. He did play his high school hockey at our Lakeville South, which is about 4 miles away from us. And you listen, Troy is our goalie expert. Troy is he's a level 5, I believe, goalie coach, one of the biggest high school programs in the state here, where high school hockey is everything. And we're big Ottinger fans. He's huge. He's got, really great technically, and he's young for a goalie. The interesting thing about goalies, Jeremy, that I've learned from Troy is that they peak at a lot later age than a skater would. And because really goalie, the position is as much of a math position as it is an athletic position. It's being in, using the geometry, having really good technique, building up that strength so you can have your up and down, left and right quickness. But yeah, and one of the things that we talked about with the Cup coming out soon is for 2020 is you have both Ottinger and Sorokin. Sorokin, I think the stat that everyone was talking about last week was he's, for any goalie that started more than 100 games, his shutout rate is like 12.5% or something like that, which is the highest of all time. So you have a couple really young, and there's some other ones we can mention too, but in particular, Ottinger and Sorokin, those are the goalies that we're most interested in right now.
Yeah, and so when I said there's some other guys, Sorokin was one that I was actually thinking of. I want to just make a comment about the shutout rate. There was a period of time, I think the goalie's name was it Brian Boucher, played for the Arizona or the Phoenix Coyotes at the time, and I think he had like 5 shutouts in a row, and his cards went wild. Sure. Now people don't even know who he is. So the shutout stat is going to be very short-lived. It's it's a streak, it's a run he's on. It's definitely not going to last, but doesn't mean he's not a great goaltender. I don't know I haven't watched him play as closely as Ottinger, but Ottinger is my pick. I've got some of his cards, and I don't collect a lot of young guys' cards. I don't buy them I don't prospect, but I got to pick one once in a while. A player comes across my radar that I really like, and Ottinger is that guy for me right now.
And if I could throw in just a tiny plug, because I think it's worth it. On our last Thursday show, we do a mailbag session, and somebody asked Troy, as a goalie coach, what makes an elite goalie elite? And he did an amazing breakdown of really sort of the fine-tuned elements and techniques and attributes that truly elite goalies have. And I think it's worth a listen, Joshua, if that's something that you're interested in.
And you can see on the ticker right now, listen to the Hockey Cards Gong Show on all podcast platforms. Mitch here says Boucher had a 5.5 game straight shutout run in 2004. Crazy run. Jake Dahl remembers that Boucher shutout streak. Yeah, I remember it pretty well myself. Daniel goes on to say, I think goalies get a lot of hobby love. And yeah, I mean, Patrick Waugh gets a ton of love. Martin Brodeur does. He's underappreciated for what he's done, but Waugh gets it. Dominic Hasek gets it. Ken Dryden gets it. Jacques Plante gets it. Glenn Hall gets it.
Carey Price. Lots of Carey Price cards sell every month.
Carey Price is probably the most overappreciated player in hockey cards, in my opinion. But he gets a ton of hobby love. Why? Because he plays for the Montreal Canadiens. That's a huge reason why. Daniel goes on to say at least vintage goalie cards do. Vintage. I think it's coming out February 22nd, I believe, is what I've seen. Josh, is that what you're hearing as well?
There's a lot. So one of the things we always look at is the clearest indicator when a set is coming out is Upper Deck publishes the checklist. And I haven't checked in the last 5 or 6 hours, and it is not out yet. But there's so much chatter right now that I really believe that the 22nd is the date. And, I'm looking out to see if pigs are flying, because is it really actually happening? It looks like that might be the case. And then I think that in early March, probably around March 8th, we'll have Series 2. So it's going to be a big, next month for the hockey hobby.
Mike Kemmel says, opinion on collecting very rare rookie cards of sets like Synergy and SP Game Used. Mike, this is a great question. I'm going to talk about Synergy for a moment because the rookie cards are very short printed. This would go for a lot of I think this question is also a good question if you were to ask it about certain parallels and inserts of cards. But let's just focus on the two you're asking about. So I think my opinion is I have a favorable opinion for these things. I think that there is good potential if you're collecting these and you're thinking about future value. Couple of reasons. Number one, Synergy is like coming into its 5th year, I believe. So it's gaining brand equity. So that's one thing. Number two, the rookie cards are very rare, especially the true base ones, the clear ones. So those are the ones that I would favor. Number three, it's not highly loved right now. Synergy does not get a ton of love by the hobby, and that is a long-term win. When something like that happens down the road, people start to come back. So it can be, you could have a long and arduous road doing that, because you're going to have to go through periods where the product people aren't loving it. You might be loving it, but not everybody else is. And the values might not be up right away or where you want them to be. But I could see down the road, and I mean like 10 years down the road, where people look back and say, oh, that Synergy card, his rookie card was out of 9 or 18 or 10 or 20, whatever the year it was. That could end up being one of their best cards of their rookie year. If you're talking about the higher print run parallels in that set, not as much so, but you called out Synergy, which has very low print run. And SP Game Used, I think you're calling that one out too, Mike, because the rookie cards, the true rookies, are numbered to the player's jersey number. I think that those cards, they got a ton of love at the beginning. I mean, McDavid's goes for a lot of money. I think you're honing in on a couple of real sort of rookie cards that I think are savvy. I think those are savvy rookie cards to pick up of players. I really like the Synergy ones, and I love Synergy because it's that die-cut acetate or die-cut cardboard with foil finishing on an acetate background. I love that, what they call technology card. So I'm all over. I like it. I prefer it to SP Game Used aesthetically. I think they're super cool, super underappreciated by the hobby right now. And I don't think I own any Synergy rookies right now, so I'm not trying to pump anything I own. Those are my thoughts on that. And that same thing goes for SP Game Used. I don't own a single one. I have one. It's actually in a drawer for my friend, so I'm not keeping it. But yeah, I think that's a good question, and I like them. Josh, any comments on Synergy and SP Game Used?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying on Synergy, and just overall, trust your aesthetic, right? I think that if you want to build value in the hobby, if that's one of your goals, that you're going to, in the long run, have much more success buying cards that you just think are awesome, that you think are cool, that might be scarce, versus chasing Connor Bedard Young Guns. Is to your point, Jeremy, that over the long haul, that will work out. Synergy is a really fun rip. It's pretty cheap. It's about $100 US for a hobby box. Tons of numbered cards, like you said. Not a lot of autos, so it's more on there are autos, but not quite as many. I am a big fan in general of Game Used. Was not a huge fan of this last edition that came out, I believe, in December. And primarily, one thing I don't understand about Game Used is there's actually very little Game Used patches in there. Artifacts has more Game Used patches than SP Game Used does. And so why is it called Game Used, right? Even like the draft day marks in Game Used, which are awesome, are manufacturer patches, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and so that's my one kind of critique on Game Used, but in general, really kind of cool, interesting cards.
Yeah. SP Game Used has sort of lost its way in where there are, non-game used. There shouldn't be a single non-game used product in a product called SP Game Used.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But hey, that's there's other constraining factors that come into play. It's a Card Knock Life says IP autographs can be certified by PSA or Beckett or JSA and others. I mean, yes, they can be. I don't see any reason to buy a secondhand in-person autograph of a player who has, pack pulled autographs, unless it's, well, okay, I can't think of some reasons. Number one, they're more affordable. But number two, even if they're certified, like, certification is not a guarantee. It's an opinion that the autograph is real. So I'm not a huge fan of them. But the other thing, I have a buddy who super collects a player, and he will buy every in-person auto on a card of that player because he wants every potential card out there. So there are reasons, but none for me personally. So we'll move along. Patrick O'Connell, thoughts on Patrick Kane's market long term will most likely go down as the greatest American modern hockey player ever. Patrick, I agree. Now is probably the best time to buy Patrick Kane you will ever find, because his values are low, because his team sucks. You know, his partner in crime, Jonathan Toews, has taken a beating value-wise, hobby-wise, even though he's a shoe-in Hall of Famer. I agree. Patrick Kane will go down as a top 3 U.S.-born player of all time, maybe the best. And I think he's going to be remembered that way. He's got Stanley Cups, so I think long-term, now's probably the time to be buying Patrick Kane if you want to, capitalize on a dip in value. Joshua Sherber, you are welcome. Alan S. Ed Belfour needs more love. I love it. Eddie Belfour. Yeah, Eddie the Eagle. I mean, there was a guy who won the Vezina and the Calder Trophy in the same year. Yeah, I think he's part of the reason why they changed the rules on how old you had to. Or no, that was Sergei Makarov, won the Calder Trophy as a rookie at the age of like 28 or 30 for the Calgary Flames. Terry Sawchuk gets a ton of hobby love, especially in the vintage, especially his like original vintage cards. Hockey Barn says Jagger scored his 1,099th Pro League goal today, overtaking Gretzky's record of 1,098. That is a big deal. That's a big deal. Jagger will go down as one of the greatest of all time. T-Dot says Patrick Waugh rookie O-Pee-Chee gets tons of bids. Yes, it does. Let's not forget the Vezina rookie. It's a crazy grail card. Yes, it is, from the 1911 C55 series. Mike Hemmel picked up 2 Svechnikovs out of 9 and a Suzuki out of 10 from Synergy. Oh, Mike, I love it. Mike, I love it. Like, I really love that. I really love those pickups, both of them. I love the Suzuki pick. I like Suzuki as a player. We know Josh likes Svechnikov. I do too, like Svechnikov in Carolina. Those are great pickups, Mike. I'm very, very happy. You pulled the 37/37 auto. I hate the autographs on Synergy. I hate them. I said, why are you ruining the cards with autographs? Because we need hits. Yeah, but you're ruining the cards. It's such a short-term way of thinking, in my opinion. Just don't like them. Sorry for getting excited there, guys. I just don't like autographs on acetate cards. And even Synergy is acetate combination with stock. Just don't like it. Just don't like it at all. I don't like them on Prism type cards. I don't like them on O-Pee-Chee Platinum. Leave Rook. Just don't like them. Josh, talk me down from this.
No, I agree with you. It's like I would rather go back to Seismic Gold, which might be not like the hockey card of the year, right? So you go back to the card that has seen the biggest gains or in chase and value over the past year. And I greatly prefer the non-auto version versus the auto version. And it's kind of funny. A well-known Canadian collector told me that that's like an American thing, right? That Americans like their shiny cards. And of course we wouldn't want the auto on it. So I don't know. I'll ask you, is that kind of a national perspective, or was that an oversimplification maybe?
I don't know. Honestly, for me, it's a my perspective. I don't know if, I see right here. I mean, Daniel right here says, agree, autos on acetate is gross. I mean, those are my thoughts. Autos on refractors. Like, these cards are beautiful in their own right. To me, I say to Upper Deck and Topps and Panini, well, Upper Deck, because that's where I would buy more of my modern day cards. Don't ruin them with these autographs. They just take away. The cards aren't designed for autographs in most cases, especially if you have to put a sticker on there. I mean, I'd just peel that thing off if I was gonna have a card for my personal collection. Not really. I'll just sell it and buy something else. But I don't know if it's a national perspective down there, up here. I think it's just an aesthetic thing. These cards, they can carry themselves based on the aesthetics. When a card is not designed to have an autograph, please don't slap one on there just to give the group breakers an extra hit. Now, maybe this isn't the way. Maybe I'm not thinking with my Upper Deck business hat on, and I'm probably not, because I'm a collector. I want cards I like to look at. There's not a single autograph in O-Pee-Chee Platinum nor in Synergy that I want in my collection. Not a single card. Like, I would just, I'd rather they didn't put it on there.
Well, I have a couple comments on that. First of all, you're spot on, because we've heard this from Upper Deck directly, that people freak out and they don't want to buy hobby boxes that don't include an auto, right? That from the general collector perspective, that makes up a large part of that value. And I think, like, again, I'll go back to O-Pee-Chee Platinum. If you're familiar with like an orange checkers or seismic gold or red prism, to make the auto visible, they have to dull the card. And so because it's I believe they're on card autos. I think I'm right on that. But they, so for a third, maybe 20% of the card to fit that auto in, they kind of white it out and dull it. And it just kind of takes away from the shiny vibe that the card has.
It's not what the card was meant to be, in my opinion. And I mean, listen, I'm not the designer or creator, but it's, a lot of Upper Deck started inserting a lot of new inserts. They started coming up with a lot of new insert concepts, a lot of new acetate cards back in the, towards the like 2012 to 14 period of time. A lot of it because there was so much success with the Fleer Retro brand that came out in 12, 13, I believe it was. And I thought that was great. And the reason why they did that is because there was so much of a rejuvenated interest in inserts from the late 90s in all sports. And Upper Deck caught wind of this. And I remember having discussions with them back then. They said they told me directly, we're going to start doing more inserts and more acetate. You're going to see it. This came right from Grant Sandground, Billy Celio, like the people who are making these decisions. And they were based on these cards that weren't autographed, but now, like you said, they need the hits, and the breakers want an autograph. Yeah, but half of these autographs are worth $1.99. More than half of them end up being worth $1.99. So yeah, a group breaker can dramatize the autograph coming out of the box, but if it's of some player that where again that autograph, you're not going to want to pay the shipping on it to get it to your house. And it's not worth a vendor at a card show putting in their showcase because that's valuable real estate. Who cares? I mean, it's for that 1 second it comes out of a pack on a live group break that the group breakers get to jump up and down. But at the end of the day, the card is worth a lot less with that autograph on it because people don't want it for their collection. So if they really want to, if they want to, I think, appeal to collectors and have long-term value in mind, which they should, I would just eliminate it and find another way to give value to the group breakers through some other mechanism, or just, randomly seed an off-design card in those boxes with an autograph on it. But don't put autographs on Prism and shiny cards like Platinum.
Or design the card around it having an auto. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love Exquisite so much, is that you can tell that the card is meant to have an autograph, right? And it's designed with that in mind. So it doesn't take away from the aesthetic of the card and having the autograph there. The autograph complements the design of the card.
Okay, good. Heavy says, personally, I don't like autos on cards because a lot of players don't care about how their auto looks. It's just a random scribble now for many players. Agreed. That's just the way it is. That's a fact. Larry up here says, and welcome, says, overall, Metal Universe PMGs are undervalued for hockey compared to Marvel and older football and basketball PMGs. Larry, my comment to that is the reason being is that in hockey, we've now had, 7 different years with PMGs, whereas basketball has had 2 and football has had 2. I mean, I'm talking about the gem PMGs, the rubies, the emeralds, those ones. I mean, the greens, the reds, those have only ever come out twice in basketball. And one was the retro series, not even professional league. So there's reasons being. So I think there's just more. We got to spread out the value across the hockey ones more so than you do across the basketball, the football. And I'm not sure how many have been out in Marvel. I think it's more than 1 at this point, but that's what I think. That's why I think that is happening. But I'm sure there's a few other, factors that are contributing to it.
Have you poked at or taken a look at the February PWCC Premier Auction yet and noticed that there's a big PMG in there?
Is that the gold 1 of 1?
It's Matthews? The gold. Yeah. Austin Matthews gold 101 from 2020 Skybox. And what's significant about that card is the last time prior to 2020, PMGs weren't produced, or were produced in 2015. So it's the first Matthews PMG. It's the retro, which is going to give it more value, and it's the 101. So that's a big Austin Matthews card in the Premier Auction.
Yeah, I saw it last. There was I have it favorited, so I can be keeping tabs on. I think it's a $7,000 or $8,000 it was up to when I last looked. Speaking about autographs on cards that they shouldn't be on, Mitch says, I saw an Alexander Ovechkin ice rookie at a 99 signed today I saw this too, Mitch. Authenticated by PSA, broke my heart. Yeah, that to me, all that does is reduce the population or the print run of that card from 99 to 98. And as far as copies that I would want, I mean, I don't need. Again, there are so many Ovechkin cards that have autographs, rookies included, Ultimate, SP Authentic, SP Game Used. There's a few more. I mean, there's enough opportunities to get an autographed Alexander Ovechkin rookie or just his autograph. Why would you take a card that is a very important card? The 0506 Ice is a very important year of ice, if not the only important, but the most important. And yeah, I would never put an autograph on there. Now, it'll still get some value, but yeah, I hear you, Mitch. Not something I'd like to see.
I got a question for you there, Jeremy. Do you ever think that adding your cards that have in-person autos, like the one Mitch is describing, where they add an inscription that is kind of a cool or meaningful inscription, does that ever add an element for you or no?
No, it has the opposite. Inscriptions to me ruin a card, you know, for example, and here's why. I mean, it depends on the inscription. You know, if this is a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tall boy rookie, like the Lou Alcindor rookie tall boy, that where he lists out all of his accomplishments, that becomes more of a memento. It loses the rookie card angle for me, and it becomes just a whole other collectible. I know it's extreme. I'm going from hockey to basketball, modern to vintage, but I just want to get that point across. If you're, because I've seen them with huge inscriptions.
Yeah.
If you add an inscription to an in-person auto on a card that wasn't designed to have an autograph, to me, it just adds more distraction to the card. It takes away from the overall aesthetics of the card. So no, SP Authentic Future Watch autos, where the first 50, I believe, have inscriptions, and people love that. Not me. It dirties up the card. It makes the card more distracting. Give me card number 51 of $9.99, please, over number 50, because I don't need the inscription. And I also personally don't trust who puts inscriptions on cards half the time when they're inscriptions, so unless you get it yourself. So no, I'm not about inscriptions, Josh. Now, give me a card. Give me I don't know. Give me an O-Pee-Chee Connor Bedard rookie card from next year, and I go meet Connor Bedard at a card show, and I get him to sign it and say, hey, happy birthday, Jeremy. Yeah, that's a card I'd love to have. Sure. But it's also not a card I'm having to go sell later. It's for me, you know, that I would like. Anyway, continuing on. Patrick O'Connell snagged the 2012 green PMG cane on PWCC Weekly a few months ago. Excited about it long term. I mean, me too, Patrick. I love that card. Congratulations. I mean, wonderful, wonderful card. And there's only 10 of them, you know, so way to go. Vintage says, wasn't Jagger's rookie in the 51 Parkers? He's been around so long. I hear ya. Hockey Cards Up says, I love Synergy Base. Me too, Hockey Cards Up. Me too. I love Synergy Base cards. And again, we're talking about the true base. Those are the clear ones. There's reds and greens and purples and oranges and all sorts of colors. I love Synergy Base as well. Under the radar. Josh?
You have to have Synergy in hand to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like you gain a whole new, we just ripped a box because it came out last week, and it's way better in person than it is in photos.
Hockey Cards Up loves Synergy Base. Daniel agrees autos on acetate is gross. I think we did that one. Daniel also saw the OV out of 99 with the auto. Ruined the card. I agree. Hockey Barn says acetate autos scratch easy and can wear off from contact. Yeah, it's the surface just isn't great for them either. Vintage says autos on Prism look like garbage as well. I agree. Hockey Cards Up says I agree. No autos on Platinum or Synergy. Yes, please. Billy, Tony, Grant, stop it. Hockey Signature says, do you oppose of my Bobby Orr or Maurice Richard signed rookie card PSA certified? Thank you for asking. No, I don't oppose that at all. That's a different thing. Personally, not for me. Personally, I want my Orr, my Richard autograph clean. But on card, in-person autos of like Hall of Famers, vintage cards where these players are dead or almost dead, sorry to use that language, and Bobby Orr's got a ways to go. I love that. I love that for you and other people. A Jackie Robinson autograph 48 Leaf or 49 Bowman, a Mickey Mantle, whether it's 51, 52, 53. Get those are huge. Ty Cobb, Satchel Paige. I mean, these are autograph cards that there's a lot of people collecting those right now. I personally don't. I want a clean copy for myself, but I do not oppose to those. Sorry, you said, do I approve? You didn't say, do I oppose? Yes, I approve of those. Sorry, I misread that Hockey Hall of Fame segment. Yes, I approve of those completely, 100%. But I don't approve of it for players who have, because back in the 50s and 60s, there were no pack-pulled autographs. Now there are. So it's, to me, it's apples and oranges. And that's why I so aggressively support you in those. And I think they're awesome. And trust me, if I could probably if I could start over again, would I have bought those cards back then? I mean, no, because even back then I didn't want them that badly. I have 5 autographed rookie cards, hockey rookies in my collection. It might be 6 actually. I got Gretzky, Lemieux, Patrick Waugh, Steve Yzerman, Ron Francis, and Dale Hawerchuk. 6 autographed. They're all PSA DNA'd. I love them. I do, but I also have a regular copy, and I'm not out there pursuing more. I'm done with those 6 cards. Okay.
Not a bad 6, Jeremy.
No, thank you. Vintage says, I don't like inscriptions either. Only inscription might be the Hall of Fame with the year, but I'd prefer just their name. Me too, and probably like you, Vintage, that would be the one exception. Put the HOF in the year, but even that, I still would rather just the name. I'd still rather just the name. Good night, Daniel. Thank you for joining. Have a great week yourself. Jeff McMahon says, would an Yzerman rookie card signed with a Hoff inscription turn you off? I mean, would it turn me off? Wouldn't turn me off, but I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't go for it, So, but no, it wouldn't turn me off, Jeff. But again, it's just not something that I would covet for my own collection. As I just mentioned, I have an autographed Steve Yzerman rookie card in my collection, and I do love it. I'll show it to you guys. I'll show it to you guys right now, actually, if I can find it here. Where did I put that? I moved my stuff around a little bit, so I'm not sure how quickly I'll be able to find it. Here it is. So, I have a few more than I mentioned because I have all the original Winnipeg Jets. But here, Josh, I'm going to share my screen for a second, just show you guys my my autographed rookie card collection. I said 6. It's more like 18 that I have. So I apologize for that. But here they are, starting from the beginning. This is Joe Daly, his 68 O-Pee-Chee. Now, Joe is a friend of mine, a personal friend of mine. And so I had a copy of his card, and I went to a shop in Winnipeg and got him to sign it for me. And how's that for a nice autograph, Josh? Look, Joe is not messing around. Every single letter is present there. Next up is my Gretzky. This is a rookie year signature when this card was actually autographed. So pretty happy with that card. There's my Ron Francis. There's the Dale Hawerchuk. Look at that Yzerman auto. I mean, I love that. It's almost like if you put Hall of Fame, whatever year it was, on top of that, it would just distract me from that beautiful autograph on the card. And by the way, every card I'm showing you guys here, these cards I acquired from the estate of the cameraman from Hockey Night in Canada. He was the cameraman. His name was Robert Thomas. He was the cameraman from 1970 till the late 90s, or sorry, the late 80s, I believe. And I bought them from his estate. Well, I bought them from Wayne Fraser, who picked up the whole estate when he passed away. And so these are kind of special because he used to go into the locker room with the cards and get the players to sign them. And he did this for 2 decades. So that's how I know that the Gretzky is rookie year, because he did these right away every year. So there's Yzerman's rookie. There's Mario Lemieux's rookie. Or I shouldn't say rookie year, but once these cards came out, he was there with the card. Mario Lemieux. There's the Patrick Waugh. And then I've got all the Jets. Well, not all of them, but many. Dave Babbage. These are guys I used to watch as a kid. Dave Babbage, Doug Smale, Thomas Steen, Dale Hawerchuk. And I have all the Hawerchuks. Paul McLean. Some people might say, well, this isn't Paul McLean's rookie card. No, it isn't. His rookie card is 82, but it doesn't picture Paul McLean. So to me, this is Paul McLean's rookie card, and it's one that pictures him. And of course, he was Dale Howardchuk's line mate he was his winger for many years and a great player. And I got to go when my stepfather actually sold him a car back in the 80s. I got to go on the delivery to his house and meet him. So that was pretty cool. There's the Howardchuk. Wow. Freddie Olesen, Howardchuk. That's it. So those are my autograph cards, personal, all in person. But it's interesting. All of these cards, the person who got them autographed is the same guy for every single one of these, except the Joe Daly. I got that one done myself, and he was the cameraman for Hockey Night in Canada in Montreal. So I really like the provenance of those particular cards.
I think it makes a difference too. And what I saw looking at your cards is where the autograph is positioned on the card, what type of marker or paint pen is used, the ink color. And I've noticed too, like when you look at a lot of young guns that are autoed, like we just did a post, I think there's a record sale on a McDavid Young Guns in-person auto that went for almost $8,000 US. That card is such a dark background, and I think they use like a blue Sharpie. It's hard to make out the auto. The auto is kind of scribbled. And so I think if you want to do it, you have to kind of make it a passion project. And like we know a guy that big Philadelphia Flyers collector, and he's going to one of their signing events, and he bought 20 different markers and bought the cards, copies, and was testing them to kind of see exactly which one. And you have to take that amount of care because it can be really distracting or hard to see if you don't.
Yeah, and you raise a point there that you didn't intend to, but another reason that I'm not a big fan of obtaining in-person autos myself is I don't want to stand in those lineups at card shows and have to wait. When I'm at a card show, like every minute is precious, whether I'm at a booth as a vendor and I want to make deals, or if I'm walking the floor and I want to, make deals. I don't want to spend my time waiting in line to get an autograph. Now that's just me. A lot of wonderful autograph guests at the expo last time. Already some announced for the coming expo in Toronto in April, but you won't find me in those lineups. You just won't. Did you see the Matt Sundin line at the fall expo? That was crazy. I didn't go. I was in Hall 5. They were in Hall 4, so I didn't see any of it. But I mean, I love seeing the great lineup list because I know it brings out a lot of people. But again, I'm myself. I approach these the way Jeremy approaches the hobby and autographs, and I just would rather not do that. I mean, it's just not for me. There are other things I would want to get autographed if I was willing to spend the time in line. Other whatever it might be, a ticket stub from a game I was at, or I don't know, those are Teemu Selanne. Those are actually autographed, like Teemu Selanne's gloves, maybe a jersey like that Selanne jersey right there. Maybe something like that. But otherwise, what I was doing for a while, Josh, was I was actually getting some players to autograph the slab, the outside of the slab. Or I also, back in the day, I bought my first Bobby Hull rookie as 58 tops. I bought that from Joe Daly in 1989. It was the most money I ever spent on a card. I think I bought it for either $600 or $800. He had like 2 in his showcase. Never seen one before. One day, Joe's got 2 in his showcase, and I bought one of them. And I had it in a brick, one of those 1-inch lucite bricks. And then I met Bobby Hull. I've met him a few times. The one time I got him to sign like a recipe card, an index card, whatever. And I cut that out and I put that in the screw down with the card. So I had his card and then right under his autograph. And I thought that was a pretty cool way to display it. But did I want him to sign my card even in 1989? No, he wasn't allowed to touch it. Never mind sign it. Like, get your hands off my card, Bobby. Don't touch it. Sign something else and maybe I'll pair them up. And we're seeing more and more of those kinds of things now, cards and autographs in frames. That to me is cool. Something that I would put on my wall, but please don't sign my cards. Jeff Sayer says that Yzerman auto is nice. No need for any inscription. Thank you. SSP Joel, you guys going to Edmonton Expo in May? Yes, Joel, I will certainly be there. I can drive to that one. Josh, what about you? Any thoughts on a trip to Edmonton?
Would love to. I think, though, we're going to go to the Toronto one in April.
Yeah, and then Edmonton is 2 weeks later. It's pretty close in proximity. So I can understand that some people might have to pick one over the other. I will be at both. I will fly to Toronto, and then I will drive up to Edmonton for the Edmonton show. And it was an amazing show last year. Yeah, last year. We're already into February here, 2023. All right, Josh, we're at the bottom of the comments. There might have been one or two that I didn't get to from way earlier. I'm going to not assume that those people are still with us, but in the event Todd McDonald is, I'm going to bring this comment up here. This is from a good hour and a half ago, Josh. Todd said, Josh, do you think the new green PMGs will break into the top rookie cards to have for a new rookie? I'll let you, I have thoughts on that. Josh, what do you think?
I think so. You know, when we looked at what are the next cards beyond the Young Guns, Future Watch Auto, and Cup RPA, that the Seismic Gold, PMG are right there, and they're heavily chased. Having a green is obviously out of 10, so much more exclusive than even the red. And the key difference, what we're seeing with PMGs, are the difference between retro and sort of the base level PMG. And so I think that is going to, that I would say the green retro PMGs, if I can make a little bit of a fine point on that, would probably be in that top rookie. What's interesting with next year is Upper Deck is combining actually a little bit of the Marvel treatment, and they're doing more of an illustrated PMG parallel that for the first time we'll have a hockey blue PMG out of 50.
Not the first time, just
you're right. There was in retro, right?
Nah, there was in retro. There was in 13, I believe. Maybe not 13. There was in 14.
Well, I thought that they had told us so that the blue was specifically Marvel for PMG.
Definitely not. I can show you. I've got blues myself in various years. I know the 14s, I believe, had blues. So the 12 retros for sure had blues. There's one on my wall right there. See that rainbow? That's a PMG rainbow right there. A team of 2012 retros right there. Blue, green, red. That's
all right. I stand corrected.
And then they also did them. I'm just scrolling through my inserts. So they did them in 2014 as well. I've got a Crosby blue. They did them in 2015. I've got the McDavid blue. So yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, and then they did them in 16 as well.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, but I want to go back to the question at hand here, because I agree with you, Josh. Yes, you've got Young Guns, you got SP Authentic Future Watch Autos, and you've got the Cup RPAs. It's kind of the three staple rookie cards. And then you said the next ones are like the Seismic Gold, the PMGs. I'm going to throw the synergies into this now, the true rookies, the true base rookies. To me, those cards are all ahead of Young Gun. For me, I would buy and own any of those over a Young Gun personally. SP Authentic Future Watch Auto, maybe not, because this is my opportunity to get an autograph rookie card. I said earlier, I'm a big Jake Ottinger fan. He's my guy for a goalie right now. I haven't bought his Future Watch Auto because I know how the hobby works, and I think that now's not the time to buy it. I think I'll get a better deal a little bit later. I'll wait for him to go cold, as he will, as every player does. We'll see if I can time that at all. I'm usually horrible at timing the market, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that I would put any of those really. Maybe I would put them ahead of the Future Watch Auto, actually, even though I would just get both at that point. And then Cup RPAs, I just don't collect them anymore. I went hard. I had like complete sets of the first few years of Cup RPAs, and now I just don't collect them anymore for whatever reason. Maybe they're just too expensive. I got the fake patches really bothered me and continues to. So I don't know. PMGs, Seismic Golds, Orange Checkers, Red Prism, like whatever the parallel is in O-Pee-Chee that you love that year in O-Pee-Chee Platinum, and then the Synergy. Like those to me are savvier cards than the other one, the Young Gun, the SP.
One thing I'll say about PMG that we've really observed over the last few months is it is, though, a controversial card, and just in the sense of how people personally feel about it. It's one of those 50-50. We have a lot of people that can't stand PMGs, right? And then there's others that think that they're some of the best cards that are produced. So like anything in the hobby, right, it comes down to personal preference, but they're not, they're a little more kind of, I guess, 50-50 than maybe some other cards that are more universally loved.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, I completely agree or like understand that, and makes good sense to me. I think a lot of people criticize PMGs. They just don't understand where the value comes from. And really, where it comes from is the fact that they're limited in production. They're serially numbered low. I know there's other low serial numbered cards, but they also have a ton of equity, more brand equity than maybe any other numbered card in the hobby. And I mean, there might be something out there I'm not thinking of, but there are reasons other than just what it is. A lot of people love them. A lot of people think, well, that's weird. Why a red background? Why a green background? Why? It's a design. It's a decision a designer made. Like the reason is really simple for me. Yeah, you either like it, you don't, or you're indifferent. Same thing goes for most cards, right? Not everybody's going to love every aesthetic. I love SP Authentic Future Watch Autos because they're so clean. They're such a clean looking card, a lot of white background. You can tell an SP Authentic card any year just by looking at it. You don't have to ask what brand is that. You know what it is. So
they're designed for the auto, right? It goes back to that. And what I would say on PMG is, to me, what makes that whole set real special, and because of the PMG, is name another sports card box that costs $150 US where you can literally pull a 6-figure card out of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. Here, Patrick takes this to a whole other level. Thoughts on Young Guns exclusives out of 100, and I guess we could also address the high gloss out of 10 parallel as well. And for me, Patrick, I think that I went through a phase where I thought that, these young guns aren't for me, simply because I just think there's better cards out there and they're not rare. So I like a card. I like aesthetics. I like the rarity. I need more than one factor for me to be interested in owning a card. And this, I thought, was the way for a young gun to get into my collection. And then I picked up a couple and I just don't love them. I understand that they are very, they're highly coveted. They're hotly pursued by a lot of collectors. And I think there's value to them. And I would say that, if you like young guns, but you don't like the print runs or the assumed print runs, this is your best bet, because I can see these being valuable in the long run. But to me, the only difference between a young gun and a young gun exclusive is the fact that it has a stamp on it with a number. That's the only distinction between the two. So it's gimmicky to me, but it's a distinction that is important in our hobby. So, I mean, I have kind of pros and cons on them, I guess, but if I was advising somebody, I would say, yeah, go for the exclusives. If it's in your budget, buy the exclusives. Buy one exclusives over 10 of the base, because I think in the long run, that's going to be a more valuable holding if value is what you're looking for. Josh?
Can I expand on that and ask you a follow-up question? So then what's your thought on like French and clear cut?
French to me is like just nothing. It's like, ugh. Nothing against French people or the French language, but I don't understand French. I don't speak it. So to me, I want a card I can read. So to go for it because it's rarer or what have you. I have zero interest in the French. And then the other one you mentioned was what? Clear cut?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love them. I don't own them. I don't own any. I've never been tempted to own one. I just don't love them. How about you?
Well, the card that I kind of secretly like, and I'm not even sure why, is I'm kind of a big fan of the clear cut exclusives. If you've seen those, they're not numbered, but they're super short print. as far as scarce Young Guns goes, that that's personally what appeals to me. But from an investing standpoint, I think that exclusives and high gloss are a much safer bet. And it's funny. So when we had Billy Celio on last fall, and we had talked to him about, I think at that time, a McDavid, it was probably a high gloss, had sold for like $100,000 or $50,000. And I'd asked him the question when he thinks we'll see $100,000 Young Gun card sale. And he dropped a hint. He said, wait till next year. There's something coming that, and we've been poked him a few times to get a little more details on that. So people that watch our show have brought it up as well. So I'm kind of curious to see how they plan to evolve the more scarce versions of the Young Guns, probably starting with Connor Bedard's rookie year. It's not a 101. I think he told us that that's not it. But do you think there should be a 101 Young Guns?
I mean, there have been. They've done not out of the, like, as a buyback sort of thing. They've done them before, right? Yes, I do. I do think that like, hey, they same question. Should there be a 1-of-1 PMG? Well, yeah, they did the gold, so why wouldn't you do it for the Young Gun? It only makes sense, right? It's an easy additional hit for them to make. They don't need new photos or anything, just another stamp. I want to just correct myself earlier, because Peeps does say that exclusives are way nicer foil gold. Is there really an et cetera there, or Peeps, or is it just nicer foil? And the stamping, because I don't know if there's anything else to distinguish.
And we can't be here all night, but we didn't even get to the whole sort of newer EPAC kind of spectrum of Young Guns, where you have the foils, the speckled rainbows, all those sort of things too. I mean, there's a lot of Young Guns now.
Yeah, when you just mentioned when you were talking about clear cuts and what you were talking about with Billy, the innovation to come. To me, there's too many versions of Young Guns now. I liked when it was your base, your exclusive, and your high gloss. I really don't keep track of them anymore. And now EPAC, we've got EPAC variations on Fanimations and Jambalayas. It's like, that's just turned me off of Fanimations and Jambalayas altogether. Adding the EPAC variation makes me stop collecting them altogether. I'm looking for something that isn't so exploited, and that's just my personal approach. So yeah, when you mentioned the speckle and all these, I'm just like, ugh. And I don't like the looks of those personally when I've seen them. So they're non-issue for me. But yeah, I think if someone said to me, Jeremy, you have to start collecting a variation of Young Guns, you got to pick up 5 every year of the rookie class, I'm going with the exclusives hands down. That's easily what I'm going with. So maybe that is a good way to sum up the Young Guns talk, which my friend JP has been waiting for a while. Either way, hearing the discussion. Thanks, JP. Appreciate that. Josh, are you okay to wrap up that discussion?
Yeah.
And you said we can't be here all night. We're coming up on 2 hours and 23 minutes on a show that was supposed to be about the PWCC Hockey Weekly Auction, which never really got off the ground tonight. They ran into some issues with our website, and they have deferred the auction till tomorrow. Extended bidding will start at 7 o'clock Pacific tomorrow instead of 7 o'clock Pacific tonight. Josh and I are not yet sure if we will be back tomorrow to do what we were intending to do tonight. Nonetheless, we have had a very nice conversation overall about a bunch of topics that I wasn't planning to speak about tonight, but we've definitely covered a bunch of things. Let's see what Decoy Cards says. Maybe it's because I like them so much, but I feel like O-Pee-Chee Retro Black out of 100 may be something Jeremy likes. Yeah, Decoy. I do like those cards. I don't know why. I can't, but I do like them. Maybe why is because the O-Pee-Chee. Okay, so you had the O-Pee-Chee brand that Upper Deck brought back several years ago. And if you think back to the 08-09 series, Josh, you'll be aware, I think they did a parallel set within the set that were the 79-80 tribute design, the Gretzky rookie year. And they did the whole set that way. And there's like 4 Gretzkys in the set, and all like the teams he played for, a Team Canada card. I love those cards. And then those were numbered out of 100. And then as Upper Deck evolved the O-Pee-Chee brand over the years, they went and they made this black bordered parallel out of 100. these are regular cardstock cards, right? I think there is a rainbow version that they do as well, which is shiny. I like that. I like it because it's not just putting a stamp on the card. They're changing the card. Maybe not the picture, but they're changing the surface, or they're changing the color of the border. Like, I like PMGs. I like many of the, I love a lot of the parallels in O-Pee-Chee Platinum because they just look cool. But just adding a serial number on a card just doesn't do it so much. So Decoy, I do like it. I do like those. Josh, how about you?
Listen, you want to put a smile on my face? Give me a box of O-Pee-Chee Paper Hobby. It is my favorite to open. It's so cheap, but there's 4 hits like in every pack, and they've got just tons of like great parallels like you're talking about. I love the black border retros. I love the blank back red parallels too. They have the platinum preview cards, right? So you can get essentially an O-Pee-Chee Platinum 6 months early than before Platinum comes out. And they have some Easter eggs and other chases. I honestly think for me, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, I'm sure, but it's one of my favorite rips. Love it.
That's awesome. And it's affordable and it's fun. You get a lot of packs, you get a lot of cards. I think that makes a ton of sense to me. And it's O-Pee-Chee, which, I mean, talk about equity, and there's nothing that has as much brand equity in the whole sports card hobby outside of maybe Topps, I would think. I mean, there's all apples to oranges discussions too. Like, well, what about Exquisite and that kind of thing? But I'll pick the Fleer and Donruss. Okay, Peeps, thank you. Glad you're enjoying the conversation. Joel, glad you are as well. Thank you for the comment. Peep says, I wish Upper Deck could actually use old O-Pee-Chee designs. That is my number one wish as well. That is the thing. Like, I loved when Topps made Topps Heritage Hockey in 0001, 0102, and 0203. Love those sets. Love that product. I just bought an unopened box of the 0203 series. It's sitting up on my shelf. You can't really see it, but it's in between the 9190. It's right over there, right in between. That's a Timu Fulani VHS tape. That's 9192. You can kind of see it right there. Not up there, but down there. I bought that at the National. I love it. And there's gum in it. Talk to me. I mean, that's amazing. So yeah, Peeps, I wish Upper Deck could use those old designs. That would, and do another, like, do an O-Pee-Chee retro set. Oh my gosh, I would be all over. Do some nice retro fractor parallels. I'd be all over them.
They can't?
No. Topps, I believe Topps owns the designs.
Oh, because of the parallels. That's what. Yeah, I was just thinking both like an O-Pee-Chee paper and platinum version of like 71 with Connor Bedard on it next year. I mean, that would be amazing.
Amazing. I mean, oh my gosh. And it's Bedard, so they would actually do every year from 54 forward.
Sure.
They'd make one of every year, you know? Yeah. I'd collect them all. I'd go for all of them. And then they do a rainbow parallel out of 100. I'd collect those I would go after the parallel that was like the lowest print run and the nicest that was within my budget, and I would just try and get them all.
Okay, what's your over under for how many unique Connor Bedard cards Upper Deck prints next year?
Oh God! What? Okay, let me ask you this: what was the number for Capri? How many were there for Kaprizov? Do we know?
I don't even know.
Baseline. Give me a baseline. Without a baseline, my guess would be 750.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess. I would go over there.
Yeah. I was going to say 1,000, but I scaled it back to 750 because I don't have I don't know I don't even know how many unique cards Zion Williamson had, or Luka, or any recent rookie in another sport even.
One of the things we've been tracking, it's not unique to the player, but when we look at when checklist comes out for sets, like on Cardboard Connection, you can export to like Excel or Google Sheets. And a lot of these sets now have 4,000 to 5,000 unique cards, like artifacts or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. So maybe 1,000 is the number. Like you said, you would go higher than my 750. Cards AH says, I feel like there's been a surge in popularity for platinum lately. Yeah, there has been AH. I think it's been over the last year and a half or so. And it really, I believe, stemmed from the popularity of Panini Prism in basketball and football and all the parallels there. O-Pee-Chee Platinum is Upper Deck's version of Prism with all the parallels and the shininess, and they're awesome. I mean, O-Pee-Chee Platinum is like Josh's favorite is O-Pee-Chee Paper. Mine is O-Pee-Chee Platinum. Give me a box of that to rip. I love it. I love that product. So many cool things in there. But there has been a surge, and deservedly so. They're awesome cards. Jake Dahl loves the regular O-Pee-Chee. Opened a box myself. It was a lot of fun, no doubt. Jeff McMahon says, were the O-Pee-Chee sheet cut cards in the 80s limited to a certain few years or the entire decade? Oh no, that's not the entire decade. That's every year back to 1954 that O-Pee-Chee and Topps were making cards. They all came from sheets. And I think that there's a ton of, I mean, there's a very famous Bobby Orr 66 Topps BGS 10 that's a sheet cut card that has some notoriety attached to it over the past 10 or so years. So it goes back to the beginning of time, really. Jeff? Mitch says, I polled if people liked, yes or no, every flagship product that Upper Deck was putting out a few months ago on my Instagram, and O-Pee-Chee Platinum was the most liked current product by that poll. I like as it should be because I'm aligned with that. So that's why I think it should be that way. Peep says Upper Deck slipped some past the goalie and got in trouble like 15 years ago, I think. Yeah, maybe that was the 08-09 series that I was talking about when they used the 7980 design, Peeps. I think that's the one. Cards AH says, unfortunately, the credentials isn't taking off for the same reason. I really like that. So what's the credentials? Is that
it's the basically, I don't know what came first. So, but it's very similar to like Optic Contenders and the rookie ticket. In credentials, it's the debut ticket. Yeah. It should be coming out for 2021. It's been on the docket for months now. The cards are pretty cool looking. And, again, based on how popular we know in other sports that the contender or Optic Contender rookie tickets are, I'm expecting that there'll be a lot of people chasing those. Yeah. Have you seen one in person?
Yeah. I was just I was confusing it with Allure for a moment. I saw credentials and I thought Allure, and because how is Allure doing it? It's a product that looks pretty cool. I just don't know where it fits in the overall portfolio of brands.
Yeah, I think that it has a little bit of an identity issue. It's kind of interesting how you said that Platinum, and I get comparing Platinum to Prism, but I actually think to me Platinum is more close to Topps Chrome. And I think that Upper Deck designed Allure to be more comparable, or the cousin, or whatever you want to call it, of Prism. It wasn't well received last year, I don't think, especially. One of the things, though, that I'm really interested for the 2021 release is they're doing their color-driven parallels, or they're calling it color connected. So if you have the rainbow, you set the cards next to each other. It's kind of like a spectrum of colors, and they're designed to all fit together. And for me, that's kind of a cool touch, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, that'll be neat for sure. I just want to build on something you just mentioned, that you thought that Platinum was more Topps Chrome than Panini Prism. I think those three are sort of the same. They're meant to.
Yeah.
You got Topps Chrome, Panini Prism, Platinum for hockey. I think those three are kind of in the same. They're targeted towards the same segment of the market by sport. You said you think Allure is meant more to be like Prism, I think you said.
Yeah, to me, they're very similar. Like when you're holding a Prism card in hand, and the printing technology seems real similar. The design last year felt real close to Prism, but maybe that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't see it myself, to be honest. One of the key reasons I don't, though, is because Allure is a thicker card and Prism is a basic 35-point card. Allure is like 55 point plus. To me, that's a big difference in just the look and feel. And we know that the thicker a card, the more premium it's meant to feel and be. So I think that's a key difference. But from an aesthetics perspective and design, I see where you're coming from there for sure. Mm-hmm. And the amount of parallels too, which is a key part. JP says, thoughts on possible hockey version of Kaboom? I mean, is that the what's it called? I just said it earlier. Now I can't remember. what's it called?
Yeah,
animation.
I think that's what Upper Deck. I'll take the lead on this one if you don't mind, because I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, go.
I think that what the hockey hobby needs is that really kind of big insert chase. Now we kind of have that with PMG. You could make the case there, or Jambalaya. So I think Skybox has the best, but the set that I would love to see have, whether you like a Color Blast or Kaboom or Downtown, whatever sort of insert analogy you'd like to make, is I'd love to see SP Authentic have a secondary chase, because we watch a lot of breakers. We've ripped the product and it's an expensive box. And if you're buying a box of it and your Future Watch Auto is from a not as cherished player, there's really nothing in that box, right? You can end up like what you said earlier, $2 auto, and that's your big card in a $300 box, right? And so I think if they had that secondary chase in SP Authentic, the other thing too, like when you watch breakers open SP Authentic, it's so boring other than getting that auto card, because the packs are, there's really, they'll look right away. They'll see if it's an auto, they'll do the sweat thing, they'll set it aside, and then they just kind of fly through the rest of the cards. So that would be my big insert wish, is to, easier said than done, because who knows what, it's if hobbies are fickle marketplaces. And, but where I will give Upper Deck a lot of credit, and we're seeing that we saw this a lot in Series 1 of this past year, is, and we've talked to Billy Cilio about it, they're trying lots of new stuff, right? I know people didn't love like Cheddar and Skybox and, but at least, I'm glad that they're taking big swings from a design and trying stuff, because, some of the stuff that we really chase is pretty weird too when it comes down to it. And you're not going to find a Jambalaya unless you try a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. You got to work your way towards it from a design creative perspective. I also want to say that Upper Deck gets a lot of flack for not being innovative, but they are. I mean, every year they're adding something somewhere. There's innovations coming this year. They're always trying to push the envelope. Now the question is, with competition, without an exclusive, would they be pushing it even further? Probably, but I think, considering the circumstances, I got to say they're doing a great job. They just, we're very finicky as a hobby oftentimes, and I think they've done a great job being innovative and doing new things, and they take criticism for not being, and I just think that's unjust. Hockey Barn says Justin Bieber will be at the 2024 All-Star Game. 99% of fans will be boycotting the game. Rule number 1 of Sports Cards Live: we do not beat down Justin Bieber. I'm just kidding, but I have nothing against the Biebs. Go Biebs. And I don't know that 99% of hockey fans will boycott the game because he's there, but there are a lot of people outside of Toronto and Canada, who feel that Toronto gets an unfair treatment from media and the NHL, and there might be some boycotting because of that, but I can't see it being because Justin Bieber is at the game. He has every right to go. He's a hockey fan.
Well, and I think that's the key, whether you like him or not personally. And I'll come back to the American side of the spectrum here. To have a massive superstar that openly talks about hockey in the NHL is not a bad thing. Right. Him and Ryan Reynolds are the same, right? We need more and more kind of, to, again, expose the game to transcend just hockey fans, right? We need these people invested in the game and talking about it to their audiences.
So do it more, Biebs. Let's see more. We need another Biebs out there doing that. Hockey Card says Luka Doncic has over 2,000 rookie cards, I think, and that was before the blow up of the hobby. Now, I don't know how many brands in how many hockey brands Upper Deck does every year versus how many basketball brands Panini does. I'm going to guess that Panini does more. I think the amount of parallels is probably 3-1. So with all that said, I'm going to stick with my 750 number for Bedard, Josh, but I have but again, yeah. But Hockey Cards going, that was before the blow up. So I'm going to say, still, I'll stick with 750, but 1,000. I'll take the over. Let me put it that way.
I didn't memorize the number, but I saw a number of months ago. If somebody wants to look it up, or you just want to have your mind blown, go look up the amount of unique Wander Franco cards printed in the last year, and it'll blow your mind. It's a huge number.
Brendan Ryan says Mosaic hockey with all the inserts. Ice Masters would be nice. That'd be pretty cool to see. Basement Break says those Metal X are attractive. So he's talking about an insert or a case hit. It's really the same thing, just a different seating ratio, but a case hit in the most recent Metal Universe, Skybox Metal Universe hockey.
Yep.
And I've never seen one in person, but I talked to Billy Celio from Upper Deck about the various inserts. I was giving him some flack over Cheddar, not seriously, but I was like, Cheddar, man, come on, what, Billy, what? Anyway, he mentioned me these Metal X cards. Oh, and I heard him on your podcast talking about them too, saying that these are really nice in hand. I've only seen pictures of them. Don't love the looks of them from the pictures online, but as I believe, and he told me, and I believe will be true, you have to see them in hand. He also mentioned to me that they're a lot thicker than the normal cards that are coming out of Skybox Metal Universe. So I want to see them. I don't always like a premium card to be that thick. I hope they didn't overdo the thickness of it. Like if it's a full 180, I don't know if I'm going to like it. If it's a 100 point or a 75, I might like it a lot more. I got to see one, and I'm excited to see one for the first time. What do you know about them?
Well, Billy showed us a prototype at the last Fall Expo of a McDavid, and it's also a new printing I can't remember. It's a lot of big words, too many big words for me, but it is a new printing technology, and they're pretty cool in person. So I keep getting sniped on eBay. I've been going after Kaprizov. It is a larger, kind of how they handled scarcity with, and it's, Billy will acknowledge this, it's actually Metallics is the name of the card, but the way, and so he kind of tried to get cute, I guess, with the spelling, but it looks like Metal X. So, see, you school me on blue PMGs, so maybe I can throw in a little Metallics kind of pronunciation there. And it's got a fairly big checklist. I think there's 70 cards in the checklist, but because it's one per box or case, I can't remember what it is, it makes the odds of getting any individual specific player pretty tough.
Yeah, it's definitely not one per box. I remember listening to him on your and Troy's podcast. Troy's in the audience right now, by the way. And he said exactly what you just did. It's like one per case, if that, I think, and it's a 70 card checklist. So yeah, really tough to get the player you want. He thinks that they are going to be a sleeper in the long run. And Mitch right here says he pulled one. I think it's a 130 point. That's a lot better than 180 in my opinion for a card that doesn't have any depth to it. If it's simply a surface card with no like shadow box feature or embedded memorabilia, if it's just a simple card with a flat surface, I don't need those to be 180 point. 130, like the original Cup base cards in the early years are awesome as far as I believe. Mitch goes on to say they do look cool. And then Troy says, we got to hold a Metallics prototype. They're sweet looking in person. Yeah, I haven't had that, haven't had the opportunity yet to do that. I'd really like to be able to. Hockey cards up. So I love the freestyle gold inserts and the big man on ice gold. Yeah, I haven't seen those number. And these are my favorite cards. Parallels of inserts. That's what I really like, because you know that it's rarer than the regular insert. Usually has some bells and whistles, whether it's gold foil or numbering or a nicer surface like you get with Skybox Rubies and the blue version of those that we see. Some really nice.
You know what the big sleeper looks like, Jeremy? And we're seeing huge sales almost every day are the population count inserts from Series 1. People are really digging those. And according to Billy, again, it sounds like that they're going to be investing a lot more into kind of amping up the design and technology around those going forward. But we just had an Owen Power population count 10, I believe, that sold for $700 US the other day. And it's the highest selling Owen Power card to date.
When you say 10, does that mean out of 10? 10 copies?
Yeah. So essentially the way it was explained to us is that printing serial numbers on cards is very expensive, and Upper Deck has a specific budget that they have to hold to in design. And then it's about, well, how do we stretch that budget to get an over how many cards we produce, how many different parallels, what sort of type foiling we use, acetate we use, and sort of a way around to add more scarcity into a flagship release like Upper Deck, which is intended to be really cheap, is they came out with this population count concept where it looks almost like a slab card. And so it starts at 1,000. So if the population got 1,000, they're not serial numbered, but there's only 1,000 in the print run. And then they have parallels that get much more intricate with foiling. And like the example of Owen Power, it's a really cool gold foil. It's a population count 10. I know there's a 1. I'm not sure if there's a 5. I can't remember. But yeah, that's 1 of 10 copies of that card.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And well, nice to hear that a card like that is commanding like record-breaking numbers for the player, who's still young and doesn't even have his best cards out yet. But
you have OV ones and McDavid. They're all selling for pretty big numbers. It's so it's been a huge insert success in just the last few months from Upper Deck.
Good. Yeah, I loved the freestyles parallel.
Love them too. I mean, the texture, have you felt them?
No.
And
no.
Yeah, they're really kind of probably not the best idea from a value standpoint, but they're kind of fun to. They got a little bit of texture to them.
But all that said, I do have to say that the number one card that I've picked up this year so far is my Ron Burgundy rookie card.
There you go. Who produced that?
Yeah. It was produced by DreamWorks LLC.
Oh, okay.
There's another. I can't even read it. It's so small. Got to pull up my loop just to read what it says here. But I know we're off topic here. 2004 DreamWorks, all rights reserved. DW Studios. DW Studios is who partnered with DreamWorks to produce the 12-card Anchorman set that I recently picked up. It's got all the key players. I mean,
Troy would be all over that. He loves entertainment cards.
Look at the Ben Stiller.
That's awesome.
Arturo Mendez.
Love it.
I mean, come on. These things are Jack Black.
Oh my gosh.
What's his name? I can't think of his real name right now. Someone will know it. Oh, Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. I mean, and there's more. You've got Champ Kind, also known what's his name in the office? Oh, what's his name in the office? Somebody know.
I'm drawing a blank.
Todd Packer.
There you go.
Todd Packer, yeah. And of course, Brick Tamland, also from The Office, and 40-Year-Old Virgin. Yeah, I just and of course Veronica Corningstone. I know, sorry, totally off topic, but I love the Anchorman cards. They came in a special edition Blu-ray, which I had to buy on Amazon a few weeks ago. I've talked about it before, so some people might have heard me say that. JP says Jeremy single-handedly increased Amazon Anchorman Blu-ray sales. Yeah, I think I did. I see more and more people showing that they've picked those up after I broke the news. And I got to give credit to, I forget who it was on Twitter, posted up that they found some of those cards, and then I had to figure out what they were. Yeah, Troy, love them too. They're pretty fun cards. All right, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, sure. We got to post our Gong Show episode yet tonight, so I'm going to be up all night, Jeremy.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to keep you. You got work to do.
No, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, well, this was great. Some great conversation. Thank you to everyone in the chat. You guys, thank you for helping us kind of, go on. And what would have probably been a 2-hour episode is just, 10 minutes shy of 3 hours now, with a lot of topics that we wouldn't have otherwise gotten to talk about. So that makes it pretty fun. So thank you, everybody. And well, Josh, we'll have to touch base at some point tomorrow. See if we're going to do an episode tomorrow. We'll have to figure that out and see if we're going to cover the PWCC Weekly if we're both available. But I guess watch our Instagrams, everybody. Watch the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel for notices on that. Want to thank you, Hockey Barn. Thank you, Basement Breaks. Appreciate y'all being here. If we don't see you again tomorrow, guys, just a quick announcement. I won't be online next weekend. I will be at the Burbank show. So no shows, no PWCC show next Sunday, no Sports Cards Live next Saturday, no Collectible Live on Sunday. Weekend off for me. The weekend after, I will also not be able to do the PWCC show, but we'll be doing Sports Cards Live on Saturday. I think it's the 13th or something like that. So we'll do that. Good night to you, Brendan. Evan Thomas, just, hey, congratulations on qualifying for the World Series of Poker online. Keep us posted on that. That is awesome. Thank you, Hop Hockey Signatures. Evan Thomas says good luck in the World Series, I think. Oh, good luck, pod. And Mitch, thank you. Good to see you, pal. All right, Josh, give you final words, and we're done. Say goodbye.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. I think we made lemonade out of lemons tonight, Jeremy, and it was a fun conversation. I always learn a lot from you. So
and me from you as well, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And drop your pod quick. When are you dropping pods this week?
Always Monday and Thursday, so 3 a.m. The newest podcast will be up tomorrow morning, or I guess it could be tomorrow morning, depending on already wherever you're at. And then on Thursday morning as well. All
right. And there you have it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great week. It is Sunday. Josh, thank you. And everyone, this episode is now over.